Hello, good morning, and welcome to the AM show for today, Thursday, the 8th of June, 2023. By His grace, we're moving on. And as I always tell you, you are who you think you are. And therefore, as you step out to work today, as you step out to engage in your activities of the day, please do so with a positive mindset that you will win in all your endeavors because you are a winner. If you think you lose, definitely you will. And therefore, instead of thinking of losing, please think of winning. Good morning once again, and welcome to the AM show. Today, we'll be starting off with the newspaper review, which of course will be blessed by having the Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa, Samuel Bing, as our guest. And then we'll bring you the big stories. Parliament has approved Justice Gertrude Tokono as Chief Justice. The minority in Parliament wants her to be a better Chief Justice at justice delivery than his predecessor, Justice Yao Enin Yeboah. Now, we discuss what's expected of her with Mahama Ayariga, lawyer and MP for Boko Central, Joseph Penka, former Deputy Attorney General. We'll also hear from the Ghana Bar Association on the show today. Now, also, the United Nations is commemorating World Oceans Day 2023 under the theme Planet Ocean. Tides are changing. The UN is joining forces with decision makers, scientists, private sector executives, civil society representatives, indigenous communities, celebrities, and youth activists, and more to put the ocean first. We've got that on our plate this morning as well. And it's day two, but it's 2 days to the Hit FM Rep Your Jersey. Today, we'll host a sponsor of this year's event. Aqueduct Mineral Water will join us for breakfast today. Later on in the show, like we do always, you would have the chance to join us with your views via phone and on social media. And that's how the package will be for you today. Welcome aboard. Thank you for making us part of your morning. We are so grateful and we cherish that you made us part of your morning. We hope you stay with us all throughout for us to engage on these issues that will inure to the benefit of this great nation of ours. Wherever you are, good morning and welcome. In my Hunter language, we say, Akwaba, Nyamane, Ingrayo. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. It's an honor to serve you breakfast this morning. Up next is AM News. You stay with us. Welcome to the AM News. To our first story now. Education Minister Dr. Yao Dichum says government has released 241 million Ghana cedis to pay teacher trainee allowances across the country. He adds that government has also introduced the continuous professional development allowance to help teachers upgrade themselves in their profession. This was disclosed in a speech read on his behalf by the Director of Tertiary Education at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Yaira Yao Jakazi, at the third graduation of the St. Vincent College of Education in Yendi.
The St. Vincent College of Education, established in 2019, has had 242 students graduate. Additionally, 118 students are expected to graduate this 2023. Out of this number, 115 graduated over the weekend. Speaking at the event, Director Tertiary Education at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Yaira Jakaji, charged the graduating students to be innovators of change in their schools they find themselves.
As educators, we must constantly strive to improve our craft, to embrace innovation, and to adapt to the changing needs of our student society. We must be lifelong learners and always seeking to expand our knowledge, refine our skills, and explore new frontiers of education. It is in this light that government has introduced the continuous professional development allowance for teachers in the classroom. And I'm happy also to announce
principal of the St. Vincent College of Education, Dr. Erasmus Noviu Morte, praised the students for putting in an effort and completing successfully, even though the school had several challenges they had to grapple with.
Irrespective of all the challenges, it's a day of celebration for all of our staff and students, parents, relatives, and friends of our 150 graduate students. Your experience during the past 4 challenging years as the first cohort to brave the U.S. education reform in our country will remain a legacy of resilience for yourself and for this country. Lack of conducive library facilities, science lab, proposed ICT center, unreliable voice and data connectivity, irregular and poor networks, difficulty in paying school fees on time, challenging dining hall food, industrial actions by both teaching and non-teaching staff sometimes, the ad hoc or irregular academic calendar, congested, later room posters, even dining space, never deter any of you from pursuing your academic future with St. Vincent College of Education. Congratulations.
Some of the graduating students spoke to Joy News.
The school target is for us to go to the rural areas so that for them to also benefit the education. So our expectation is for the government to please, they shouldn't let this our talent go down so that we get into the system and work really hard to help bring out the potentials in our younger ones that are coming.
Although the school is not much advanced or developed, we are underdeveloped. But the teachers are very good, we have good staff, we have good teachers, and some little infrastructure that help us to study. But the little thing that I will talk about is our infrastructures. We need more infrastructures. So we are pleading on the government to come into the aid of St. Vincent so that St. Vincent will be a better place for us to study.
And still on education, Africa Education Watch, Ghana, National Education Campaign Coalition, and some civil society organizations are asking government to scrap the laptop for textbooks project. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia last month hinted that government plans to replace textbooks with laptops in senior high schools across the country. Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, claims that government's action is ill-informed and unsupported by any feasibility studies.
Worldwide, it's established in every country we know that introduce laptops or tablets for senior high school students or even primary students, that everywhere laptops never replaced printed textbooks. It hasn't happened in Finland, which is at #1 OECD. It hasn't happened in the UK. It hasn't happened in Africa. It hasn't happened in South Africa. And it hasn't happened in anywhere we know about. In Canada, it hasn't happened there. So international best practice tells us that a laptop containing an e-textbook can never replace a printed textbook because of the reliability of a printed textbook. And so the two are important, but they are always complementary. We asked, where is the feasibility study that was conducted to inform this audacious initiative? When was it conducted? In April alone, this April. In Central Region alone, I counted more than 10 schools that were disconnected within a period of 6 days. Infantiman was disconnected because they were owing 300,000 Ghana cedis electricity bill. Within that same week, Mando Senior High Technical was disconnected. Bisiansi Senior High School, Enyan Dentra Senior High Technical, Enyan Abasa Technical Institute, Enyan Memu, John Ivan Atamel Senior High School, and the Kunfi Tia Madia Senior High Schools were all disconnected. We, the CSOs gathered here, Africa Education Watch, Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, and the Civil Society SDG platform, believe that textbooks can never be replaced with e-textbooks. A laptop can never take the place of a printed textbook. It has never been so in any country and it will never work in Ghana. And so, if government has any plans to introduce laptops, it should be within a different context, at a different time, where it probably will be a complement to printed textbook.
Now, the Vice Chancellor of the Dr. Hillard Limann Technical University, Professor N.K. Sole, is worried about stored infrastructure project on his campus. Key among the project are the 1,200 bed capacity student hostel and accommodation facility for staff and the University Campus Road project, which has been abandoned by the contractor for 2 years. Rafik Salam report from WA.
Very little has changed in its infrastructural development since it was converted along 9 other polytechnics in the country into technical universities and renamed Dr. Hillard Limann Technical University. Since its establishment close to 24 years ago, it has been run without hostel facilities. A 1,200-bed hostel facility that was started almost 2 decades ago, along with its lecture theater, has still not gone beyond the first floor. The project has been abandoned by the contractor and now overtaken by weeds. Vice Chancellor of Dr. Hillard Limann Technical University, Professor Elias N.K. Sole, expressed worry about the continuous delay in completing projects, which he said is impeding administrative and academic work. He called on organizations and individuals to partner the university to construct hostels on a public-private partnership arrangement.
Also, the 10-number 40-unit 2-bedroom staff accommodation project awarded in October 2008 are being executed by 9 different contractors and are at various stages of completion, with an average rate of 60%. Mr. Chairman, a faculty building project which was awarded on contract has been abandoned for several years now. It was abandoned at the foundation level, so you can't easily see where it is because the foundation is buried in the ground. If there's anything that has featured in all our congregation reports, and indeed all public events where I've had the chance to speak, I've mentioned this hostel project thing. Students' hostel. We don't have a single one. I know this event will reach the entire world through the media. We are appealing to all those who can do something about it to come to our aid. We have great potential, but this is a serious impediment. So people in WA and the catchment area, the whole of the country and even outside who can support, we are appealing to you to come to our aid.
Another challenge which was replete in the speech of the Vice Chancellor of the Dr. Hillard Limann Technical University are the dusty and bumpy roads. The 80-man road project began in 2019 and was expected to be completed in 2021. Work has still not been completed.
The long delay in completion of work has made inner roads on campus unattractive, unbefitting of a university campus.
Now to other stories now, and Ghana is setting a global standard for water quality across Africa. That's according to Chief Manager for Water Quality Assurance at the Ghana Water Company Limited, Dr. Margaret Macaulay. She says Ghana's laboratories have been strengthened and set to a high standard, forcing other countries to follow suit in order to produce quality water for their citizens. Jacqueline and Sumaya Boa reports.
Across Africa, access to safe and clean water is a complex and evolving challenge. With the latest capacity module at the Ghana Water Company Limited laboratories, Ghana has become the pace setter in quality water production. Chief Manager for Water Quality Assurance at Ghana Water Company Limited, Dr. Margaret Macaulay, wants this model implemented in other African countries.
So beyond that, our capacity was further strengthened. They took us through laboratory auditing and several other technical aspects. So now that our capacity has been strengthened, we have been used to go to other African countries, specifically Nigeria, since 2017, 2018. Up until now, we've so far visited 3 utilities in Nigeria. That's FCT, Water Board, Taraba State, and also Ogun State Water Corporation. So this is the phase 2, where they have identified that other African countries have the same gap. We are actually going to take them through the step-by-step process, how we were able to put together this quality manual.
Director of Public Relations at the Ghana Water Company Limited, Stanley Mate, is worried about the effect of illegal mining on their operations.
The challenge we have is with alluvial mining, because the water is the source which you abstract for treatment. So when you mine on the water, then it has impact on us. When turbidity is high, it affects the GWC and then the cost of production, because one, we need to use more chemicals. Now the alum that we were using previously is no more effective, or it's not as effective as we would have expected it to be. So now we are using a different chemical we call the polymer. Now the sad aspect is that the polymer is more expensive, but that works better. So the more expensive the chemical, the more expensive the production becomes. It's when it affects tariff, then the consumer will have to pay more. And that is what we are saying. Okay, if you don't want to pay more, help us in the fight against alluvial mining or against galamsey.
The dialogue between Anglophone and Francophone representatives will strengthen the capacities of African water operators for a better performance in service delivery. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
Now, a major climate change conference has opened in Bonn, Germany, with Africa making a strong case for the establishment of a loss and damage fund and global stock taking. The African group of negotiators on climate change also wants issues of global stock taking prioritized. There is more in the following report by Kofi Edudomfe.
Countries in Africa are already experiencing severe and widespread impacts of climate change, causing devastation to lives, livelihoods, and the continent's development trajectory. The Bonn Climate Change Conference is expected to make progress on mandates emerging from COP27 in Egypt and prepare draft decisions for adoption at COP28 in UAE. Issues of critical importance include the global stocktake, global goal on adaptation, just transition, loss and damage, and the mitigation work program. Chair of the African Group of Negotiators, Ephraim Shitima, has reaffirmed the AGN's call for the GST to be balanced to take corrective measures for better implementation of climate action.
The GST technical dialogues emerging messages will form the content of the factual synthesis report, and it is important that these messages reflect the breadth and findings from the best available science and various inputs that we have considered. Ultimately, the GST outcome must operationalize the fairness and the just transition for all. Our expectation of the form of the GST outcome is a negotiated one that is owned by all parties. We have the understanding that the high-level committee working in consultations with parties will guide and facilitate this process. The GST outcome must secure policy space and the appropriate means for the African countries to implement their NDCs in the context of achieving SDGs and transition to low emission and resilient development. It is also prudent for the process to leave SB 58 with the outline and an indicative elements of the final GST outcome and a sense of political messages. As COP28 is the GST COP, the GST should be an assessment of what we have achieved towards the goals of the Paris Agreement, to assess the wrongs and take corrective measures for better implementation of climate action.
The AGN also wants the operationalization of the loss and damage fund with flexible and robust modalities prioritized. The team is also determined to ensure finance is given the prominence it deserves on the agenda.
The GST outcome must operationalize the fairness and the just transition for all. Our expectation of the form of the GST outcome is a negotiated one that is owned by all parties. We have the understanding that the high-level committee working in consultations with parties will guide and facilitate this process. The African Group calls on developed countries to deliver and restore confidence and trust in the UNFCCC process. The GCF replenishment in October is an opportunity for developed countries to show the world their willingness to do their part in addressing climate change and support climate action in developing countries.
The African group also calls for an ambitious outcome on climate adaptation at COP28. For Joy News, Kofi Edudumfe reporting.
Now, he's the pioneer of plastic waste to fuel in Ghana. Michael Kome of KNUST Technology Consultancy Center has been able to apply plastic waste in many sectors of the economy. As the world marks World Environment Week with plastic pollution in focus, we put a spotlight on how he's using plastic waste from the sea to improve soil fertility. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah has more for Tech Thursday.
I first saw an article video of a lady lecturer in India who's making, turning plastics to diesel fuel, and at that time she was earning like 20 million a year just by selling to pragya. India has a lot of pragyas, so that was what she was doing. So when I started my research, with the plastics, with the water filter membranes, and then doing cook stoves and all those things, this idea was lingering on. So what kickstarted the whole thing was more of out of annoyance of why Ghanaian scientists, researchers, professors are not able to solve the problem. And we're just talking about the problem and giving some interesting solutions, which were for me. So I started with a million, did a small pyrolysis, some things, and then that is what happened. Then, of course, you did your try and error. There was a time I got funding and I had to tell the financiers that, hold on, let me understand, get confidence in what and how and where the whole system works, and then I can come for the money. And then after I acquired all these things, the funding didn't come because it's gone past that opportunity. We had 2 drums of a diesel petrol, and then Ghana Climate Innovation Center bought these fuels and I used it in their car for their road show in 2015, 2018, thereabout. So we have a feedback report, written report from them. And individuals have used it. Recently, our collaboration with Legon shows that when you use the fuel, the petrol one, you use less gallons, like 3.5 gallons to Accra. But if you are using the regular one, it's like 4 or 5 gallons. So, but then, one went on, and then came the circular economy, and then how do you use the whole value chain of the process of cleaning up plastics in the environment. And then we started looking at all these things. So we first did the fuel, diesel, petrol, gases. We did the, how do you call it, the business models. Yeah, you make some money, but then we thought it was incomplete. So we needed to make money from the char, and we needed to make money from the fuels as well. So we realized that char can be used for so many applications, water treatment, or as this is for membrane development for water treatment, for cleaning gases. Yeah. So that's a plastic from the sea. I'm doing this in collaboration with Legon. They also have something like Technology Consultancy Center. There's this Institute of Applied Science and Technology. And so they brought me this sample from the sea. And we are trying to paralyze it and then take the results for analysis. Yeah, when you increase the porosity, you are increasing the surface area by which when anything comes into contact, if the gases are coming into contact with the carbon, and you have wider surface area at the nano level, it's more effective and reactive. So you test your temperature. So you use it to check your temperature. So you know the temperature at which you are operating your system. Right. That's an industrial thermocouple. This is cashew nut. So we are looking at all the farm waste. So this is cashew nut that has been charred. Using a huge pyrolysis system powered by firewood. That's a raw cashew nut waste. And then this is a combination of coconut shell, rice husks, corn cobs, name them, which we can further increase the porosity or pore sizes in salts. So this is charred already, so we just want to increase the pore sizes or the surface area by doing it in salt. This is also this one is mainly plastics, including e-waste. We also pyrize e-waste, sieve it up, and then keep the metals on one side, and then use the charred plastics from the e-waste. If we went to the north, they do farming. During the dry season, most of them are not farming because it's dry. When you mix this one with the soil, okay, it can absorb so much water and release them slowly to the plant. So within the dry season, you can still farm. So you can farm throughout the year by the application of this. We use this for stabilizing roads. It's when the road is clay, dry season, it cracks. Wet season, it expands. So your bitumen and your whatnot doesn't last. We mix this with the soil, and it can absorb so much water and release the water slowly, so that expansion construction is managed, so that our bitumen or concrete or whatever we put on the surface of the soil is stable.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the AM News. There's more to come on the show. Stay with us. So welcome back to the AM show. Time for us to go into what the papers are reporting this morning. But look, even before we go into that, I have a very beautiful message here that I need to send to someone. Now, this one says, and it's more of a love letter. It says, I met my wife, Elise Ochre Dakon, Advanced Ghana, and she mesmerized me, and I called her my princess. We got married, and she poured sugar into my cocoa, and I renamed her Sugar. That's Sue. Now she has an alias, Na Dromo Mami, as she blessed me with a bundle of joy. Elise, blessed birthday, and remain my sugar babe forever. Raymond Labi and Ray Ann Yolanda Na Dromo Koshi Labi send love to you. And I'm sure you know where it's coming from. It's coming from our own man here at the HR, Raymond Labi. This is a sweet, beautiful love letter there that Raymond has written this morning. Okay, let's get into the papers and see what we have here. Now, I have the Daily Graphic. I also have the Daily Guide newspaper. I have the Business Finder, and then the Meridian newspaper. So we've been joined by Samuel Obeng of the Parliamentary Network Africa. We're doing this with him this morning. Sammy, good morning. I hope you're well.
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm blessed, and it's great to have you on the show this morning. Now, let's start from the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says, Green Ghana here again. Tomorrow's exercise targets 10 million seedlings. Laptops with inbuilt learning materials don't abolish hard copy textbooks, publishers propose. Okay. Parliament approves Justice Tokonu as 15th CJ, and OSP clarifies invitation of Professor Frimpong Boateng. So let's get into the papers and see. Okay, I'd love us to start from the OSP clarifying the invitation to Professor Frimpong Boateng there. Now, it became topical yesterday, and the OSP is giving some clarifications there. Now, the story is written by Emmanuel Ebo-Hodgson. It says, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has clarified that it invited questioning a former Minister of Science and Environment, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, on May 15 this year. According to the OSP, the invitation was in connection with investigations into illegal mining and the activities of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, IMCIM, chaired by Professor Frimpong Boateng. The investigations, the OSP said, started in October last year and was part of a broad range of investigations into suspected corruption and corruption-related practices into the activities of certain entities, including the IMCIM and the illegal mining industry. Sources told the Daily Graphic that as a matter of procedure of the OSP, persons of interest in investigations were either granted bail or detained for more questioning, taking cognizance of the 48-hour period stipulated by the 1992 Constitution. The sources said that after the interrogation on the same day, May 15, Professor Frimpong Boateng was granted self-recognizance bail in the sum of 2 million cedis. The sources said the OSP would soon come out with its report on investigations into the suspected corruption and corruption-related activities in illegal mining and the activities of the IMCIM. Sami, so this is what we've all been following. We were told of this arrest yesterday. We even went to his house to spoke to him on an array of issues. I'm sure you've been following as well. What do you make of this step taken by the OSP in respect to the activities of the IMCIM?
On the OSP to ensure that they take some actions, so far as this matter is concerned, because we are battling a very important issue, issue of illegal mining and its effect on our country. And so, even since the Frimpong Boateng report, came out, all of us have been calling for some swift actions to be taken. I perhaps would see the actions that the OSP has taken as part of the processes, leading up to this swift action. I know that bodies such as this would have standard procedure on how they go about things. If you are invited, what will happen? If you turn yourself in, what will happen? If you don't, what will happen, and what have you? I just hope that this is part of a bigger process of finding solution or finding, people who are culpable on this whole saga. And that's the same yardstick that has been used in, dealing with Professor Frimpong Boateng, would be applied to whoever also needs to be invited, needs to be interrogated, needs to be, allowed to go back, needs to come back subsequently for further interrogations and what have you, irrespective of whoever that person is. And so we are watching very closely. I think that all Ghanaians, because this Galamsey matter affects all of us, whether you are in the media or in civil society or wherever you are, must have an interest in this matter. We must watch closely. And we look forward to the OSP doing the needful in ensuring that everybody that needs to come, every effort they need to put in place, every step they need to take to send the right signal that this is not something we will condone in our country going forward will be done.
We understand some persons of interest will also be going to the OSP to answer some questions. We even understand that officers of Akunta Mining, some of them have already been interviewed over the course of the days, and this is to help us deal with the issue of the illegal mining menace in this country. How do you expect the OSP to handle this whole process to ensure that there is transparency and fairness in its dealings?
On the bit about transparency, the OSP is one of those institutions which the law that establishes it actually makes provisions for how it can exercise transparency. In that the law requires that there is regular feedbacking to the public through reports that the OSP does and what have you. And we have noticed also that at the very least with this new special prosecutor and his tenure, we've seen some innovative use of social media and new media to put out regular information, using traditional media to put out regular information. So we'll be expecting these, as part of the transparency process. On the bit about fairness, I think that's the point that I made earlier, that, Professor Frimpong Boateng, you invite him, he comes, you take him through the processes. Whoever gets invited, whoever is named, whoever is the person of interest, when the people come, we should also see that the processes are playing out fairly. Whether the person is somebody influential in government, whether it is a former minister like Professor Frimpong Boateng who may no longer have influence in government, whether it is somebody who absolutely has no interest or influence in government, we must see all of these things playing out in a fair, consistent manner so that we know that the OSP is out for the job that it actually has mandate to do.
Well, whilst talking about the OSP, let's bring in, the Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, who has been approved here. Now, the story is on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. It says, Parliament approves Justice Tokonu as 15th CJ. Now, Parliament has unanimously approved Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokonu as 15th Chief Justice of Ghana. The overwhelming endorsement of Justice Tokonu by the lawmakers yesterday also made her the third female to occupy one of the nation's most prestigious offices after Theodora Wood and Sophia Akufo. Now, moving the motion for the approval of the nominee, the chairman of the Appointment Committee of Parliament, Joe Osei-Owusu, said the Chief Justice showed character, competence, and dexterity in the knowledge of the law during her vetting barely a fortnight ago. Quoting from the committee's report, the chairman, who doubles as the first deputy speaker of Parliament, said she pledged to interpret the law without fear or favor if approved as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Quote, the committee therefore recommends to the House to adopt its report and by consensus approve Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokonu as Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. End of quote, he said. Well, Parliament has been debating all of this, and their call is that they want her to be impartial and deliver justice. Some even saying that she should do better than her predecessor. What do you make of her appointment or her nomination and also conferment, as well as what you expect of what to do as a CJ?
We can all add voices in congratulating Chief Justice Tokonu, on this elevation. All of us in our respective areas of work, we expect that we will do well, we will be recognized, we will be promoted, and we eventually may occupy the ultimate, and so in the judiciary, where she has committed many, many years of her life to, this is the ultimate, and we're happy for her. Parliament had done the needful. Constitutionally, they are required to approve of her. We heard of some of the issues leading up to this process. But of course, just when the hurdle was crossed, We knew that once there was a consensus report from the Committee of Parliament, then it was going to be over, a voice vote, overwhelming support for her approval. So that has also been done. Consistently, there's been too many talks about, the judiciary and our courts and the justice delivery systems and the results that comes out of it. Unfortunately, our politicians over the years, depending on where they stand, whether they are in power or out of power, have, not just spoken about, justice delivery, but have also, in many instances, vilified the courts, and to some extent wanted to bring it down, in many instances. And for me, these things are very dangerous. Because the last resort that one has when one feels that there is injustice, when one feels that things aren't going right, is to go to the courts and to seek a person's rights or what have you. I think that there certainly is a lot of work that needs to be done there also to be able to inspire confidence in us as Ghanaians. And so her work is quite cut out for her. It's exciting that at the judiciary, we're consistently getting competent women, who are taking up, roles. It's exciting that this keeps happening in the judiciary, at least the third time. Parliament has had it once. The executive branch, both at presidency and at vice presidency, had never had it. But for me, when such things happen, it is a way to have people of competence, to show that they are able to deliver so that it pave way for other people. So we can only wish her the very best in her endeavors. And we hope that the things that does not make people believe too much in the judiciary in recent times or in times of old, she would use her experience and her innovation, because we are told that she's somebody who also loves innovation, to ensure that there will be the relevant changes that happens within the system to inspire confidence.
But what exactly are you looking forward to seeing her do to, polish up in court the image of the judiciary, as the minorities and some Ghanaians believe that image has been dwindling for some time now? Are there things, specific things you expect her to do to try and build that image again?
There's been a plethora of things that have led up to this image decline. Of course, many of them started as perception, perceived corruption, perceived bribery in the judiciary. Then there was the ANAS situation, and then it's brought out the fact that some of these things may not be perception after all. Then there are instances of cases that people expect to go in a particular way, it goes in another way. But even those ones, a little understanding of the law shows that you may have, the same case, two people arguing from very opposite sides, arguing, viciously and in a way that makes you believe either sides. They have a very difficult responsibility as judges to listen, to extract the law, to make sure that justice is delivered. And so for me, I think that the image cleansing comes from, steps to ensure that people believe that when I go to court, it is not because the other party has deeper pockets or better connections. The person would eventually emerge, victorious over me. Again, I expect that when I go to court, whether it is for business, whether it's a matter civil or criminal, whatever it is, I expect that, justice will be done, and justice will be done swiftly. We've had too many instances, especially even at the Supreme Court, of cases where, the kind of priority that is given to it, the delays as against other cases that seem to be prioritized a lot. The recent victory that PN Africa, my organization, CDD Ghana, and the rest civil society organizations did on the Auditor General situation, is a classic example. We want to see all of these things stemmed out. And I think that she clearly understands the system. I believe that she knows what to do, how to work with the people that matter to deliver on these mandates. And we can only wish her the very best in doing so.
Now, commenting or seconding the motion, the Minority Chief Whip, Kwame Agboja, however, expressed concern about the view of the new Chief Justice on citizenship. He said for her to insist during the vetting that birth certificate was not a proof of citizenship was worrying. Mr. Agboja pointed out that such a view could lead to miscarriage of justice to a number of Ghanaians, and therefore she must take steps to reverse it. Is this something you think, or anything the Chief Justice can do to reverse that, if that's her view?
Well, Mr. Agboja expressed a lot of views also on the floor of Parliament yesterday. Some very hard views. Is in his right so to do, when he expresses his views on the floor of Parliament, irrespective of how unpleasant some people may find it, it must carry. The lady Chief Justice also expressed her view about it. I really do not think that, if people have different views and opinions about the matter, they can express same. And if people think that there are ways that we can use the judicial process to clarify some of these things, these are the things that helps to build our democracy. When people express opinions, when we challenge it, when we express counter opinions, when we use the systems that are allowed to ensure that things are clarified and things are put in better perspective, then we are building the kind of democracy that we need to build. I don't really think that people must be chastised for expressing their genuine view. And mind you, this is a learned member of the bench, who I'm sure that we all know is not a woman of straw. And so far as these legalese are concerned, can be better able to express. I don't have a position on the subject matter because I do not think that I have the requisite understanding, to know, to decipher, her personal view on this. But I think that there are better forums that can help us clarify this matter.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the Daily Guide newspaper now. And on the front page, Opening Records request ruling June 14. Minority attacks SC judges. Parliament confirms Justice Tokonu. Charles Opoku is Asen North MPP candidate, and KGL leads charge for diaspora inclusion. Those are the stories on the front page of the newspaper. Whilst talking about the Supreme Court, I guess just a brief on this. It says that the Minority Chief Whip governs Agboja yesterday took a swipe at the justices of the Supreme Court, claiming that their decisions do not make sense. Now, quote, their rulings have not made sense to me, he said, while seconding a motion for the House to adopt the report of the Appointment Committee on the President's nomination of Justice Gertrude A.E.S. Tokonu for appointment as Chief Justice. Mr. Agboja, who 10th floor of Parliament to a review forum of the Supreme Court decision on the proof of citizenship, said the apex court led by former Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah had carried out several miscarriages of justice, which the one on citizenship is the greatest of all. Quote, Mr. Speaker, I consider that singular decision by the Supreme Court as the biggest miscarriage of justice in our lifetime, and this must not be allowed to stay. Apart from the Supreme Court of Ghana, every state institution believes that a birth certificate acquired in Ghana with your citizenship as a Ghanaian is accepted. Well, I don't know. Do you have any view on this, especially when he's attacking the ruling in respect of the Mr. Jati Kwesi as MP for Asen North?
Well, fortunately for Mr. Agboja, and by way of education to our viewers, what members of Parliament say on the floor of Parliament, the Constitution, their standing orders, grants them absolute freedom of expression on that floor of Parliament, to the extent that, like the rule says, nothing they say on that floor of Parliament can be held, against them outside. And so he had every right to, at least by the rules that plays out for a member of Parliament, to express his views and express them quite, vociferously. For me, when our leaders have the opportunity to express themselves with the fora that constitutions, afford them, I think that it also must make them aware that we also, as citizens, by the constitutional rights and freedoms to expression and what have you, also can have very, very tough views and opinions that we will express in many instances. And people must understand it as within, our rights so to do. And so we cannot fault him much for expressing his views. I think that the forum also allowed other members of parliament who had contrary view to also, express such contrary view. The jury is out there for the public to make an opinion.
But when the law is a little clear on, who is eligible to stand to be elected for as member of parliament, and it says you shouldn't hold allegiance to any other country apart from Ghana, and the Supreme Court has interpreted that to mean that at the time of filing your nomination, you should not hold any allegiance, is it not also miseducation of a sort for people of that high repute to sort of say the Supreme Court was wrong?
Oh, disagreeing with the court, I don't think it's a wrong thing. Disagreeing viciously with the court, I don't also think it's a wrong thing. Of course, seeking to impugn ill motive to the court and its decisions and rulings is perhaps where there will be a problem. But I mean, people have the right to disagree with the courts, especially when they have views and opinions about this. Fortunately, for any member of Mr. Agboje's caucus or party, there is still an opportunity to be able to contest this particular decision of the court, to seek review of it. And for me, I think that we are building a democracy. And so some of these things are meant to happen. Some of these clarity to our constitution and what it means are meant to happen. We may not agree with the courts all the time, so far as these things are concerned, but so long as we do not also exercise our rights to review, then these things will hold as law and will be applicable in the future. I think that the thing that this Supreme Court case, the Jachikwesin case, as I may want to put it, helps us to do is that it helps to clarify very clearly, so that if I want to contest, I know at what point I must renounce my extra citizenship of another country. It provides some clarity that did not exist prior to this particular ruling. And for me, this is how we build a nation.
Okay, all right. Now, the MPP has also elected Charles Opoku as their candidate in Assin North. We've heard of the development happening in there. What's your expectation of how this by-election will go, and what do you make of the last-minute sort of attempt to really bring developmental projects in the community? Government says, well, these are projects that started long ago. For example, the AstroTurfs that we saw didn't start yesterday. The roads didn't start yesterday. But people say, well, we've seen too much in this short time.
Well, we all know that Assin North was going to be very, very, very keenly contested for many, many reasons. In fact, not just Assin North, any by-election that will take place in this 8th Parliament dispensation. And we hope that we do not get unfortunate reasons why by-elections happen again, at least for the rest of the tenure of this 8th Parliament. It will be keenly contested. And we'll have the two major political parties who have representation in Parliament do anything and everything to ensure that they win a seat, maintain a seat, snatch a seat, or what have you. In Kumewu, at least we've learned that both of them, had to field candidates they thought, were popular, but both candidates did not have their votes in Kumewu. At least in recent times, we've learned those very interesting revelations. Here in Assin North, we're seeing how both candidates are taking what I may want to call a gamble, with Mr. Kwesin being presented by the NDC, with the MPP presenting somebody who we understand hails from the constituency and all of that, but also does not have a vote in the constituency. And all of those may, present campaigning messaging for either of them. So we expect it to be keen. We expect them to put in their all in ensuring that either the NDC retains it or the MPP snatches it, whichever way it goes. And particularly because of the dynamics of Assin North over the years, it promises to be quite interesting. The developmental projects that are happening. Development is not a bad thing. In fact, we have noticed that many of our compatriots now want to see democracy and interpret democracy or replace the word democracy with development. They want to see development happening. So democracy, development, playing out very, very clearly. However, when we are made to think or perceive that because our votes are wanted, needed, development is fast-tracked in a way that is not how the normal situation plays out, or when citizens seem to be taken for granted, or there is a perception of so doing happening in a particular space because of politics, because of elections, because of wanting to win elections and what have you, then it is a worrying situation. I just hope that genuinely these are projects that the government have actually listed as, prioritizing around this time for the people of Asin North. I hope that these developments and projects that have commenced or restarted or what have you will not end after June 27th, I think. And I hope that the people of Asin North will be genuinely receiving their quota of national development, all throughout the tenure of this government. But the people are wise, let's not take the Ghanaian voter for granted. I think that they can read through if really there is ill intention about this. And if there isn't, they can also read through. And the results, will be exciting. I look forward to seeing the results and being able to see what that means really to what the Ghanaian people perceive of some of these things.
Okay. Now let's do the Business Finder newspaper. It says on the front page, let's unlock full potential of mining and energy to fuel local industrialization. That's according to the Minister Samuel Abu Jenapo. It comes with this picture. Now, CBG, DBG train over 400 SMEs. These are the stories on the front page. Now, if you go to page 4 of the Business Finder newspaper, it says, government to maximize revenues from mining, oil and gas industry. Now, even though there is an expansion in the growth of revenues from Ghana's minerals and oil and gas sectors, government seeks to further maximize revenues from the extractives sector to meet its fiscal objectives. Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, has stated, government, Dr. Adam was reviewing the fiscal regimes governing the mining and oil and gas sectors to rake in more revenues. The minister, who was launching the 2020 report of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, GATI, called on stakeholders in the mining and oil and gas industries to support government's bid to meet its fiscal obligations. Zobeng, as government intends to review all of these and to maximize revenues from the extractive sectors, how do you expect government to do this? And how can we derive maximum benefit from our extractives?
How can we derive maximum benefits from our extractives when there is maximum transparency in the things that happens within that extractive sector, when people of authority and power think about nation first before they do some of the things that they do in agreeing to some of these agreements that are within the space, when the corruption is minimized, when the illegalities are minimized, when the people living in those communities where these minerals, natural resources are extracted, are prioritized, in some of these decision making. I think that when it comes to these matters, we all know the potential, of our extractive sector for our country. We all know that God Almighty, was not did not do us injustice. He provided us what we needed as a country to be able to develop. And we all know that it has taken us, the Ghanaian people in authority, all of us, conniving, unfortunately, to bring our country down in such bizarre manner when it comes to these issues. So I'm happy that the minister is saying this, but these things must be backed, by action of transparency, action of doing the right thing, action of putting country first when it comes to some of these things. The talks alone, the fine speeches alone have happened in the past. We've heard them many, many times. They must be backed by action.
All right. So you feel that in the past we've not really done much from the extractives, right, in terms of transparency?
Well, there's been some efforts. I mean, civil society in the extractive industry, the media in various exposés and what have you, have brought out things that has helped us to make things relatively better than it would have been. Okay. However, we still aren't there at all.
Okay.
So far as ultimate transparency is concerned and accountability.
Samuel, I'm grateful to you for joining us on the News Review segment of the AM show today.
My pleasure, always.
All right. Samuel Bing is Executive Director of the African Network, Africa Parliamentary Network there. Now, we'll take a break here and bring you sports. We have a big interaction for you, people of football in Ghana. That you might not want to miss this interaction because we have the biggest man in Ghana's football industry here on the show today. Do stay.
Good morning. Let's do sports now. On the AM show with me, Muftar Nabila Abdullah. We are in the Ghana Football Association political season where people who are interested in heading various positions within the football government are making clear their intents. One of such persons is Kojo Yanka, a former Western Regional Football Association chairman. He has declared that he will be contesting for the position of president of the Ghana Football Association. He says Kurt Okreko has divided the football community and he's here to unite the football front.
It's time for us also to help develop the game.
Okay.
So I'm offering myself for the position so that I can also contribute my quota to develop the
Mr. Yanka, you were part of the previous administration of the Ghana Football Association. In fact, you are an executive committee member. You headed the Western Regional Football Association for a number of years. What are some of the loopholes that you think that Mr. Yanka is a perfect man to fill these holes?
I have decided that for now, it's about my declaration for the presidency.
Okay.
But my manifesto and what the things that is going on that I want to, that has prepared me to contest, I'll bring them out later on. Because I'm putting things together to say things that is going wrong and the things I want to do for the association. So for now, look at it and we need to speak about it. It's the love between us is no more there. The unity between us is no more there. And I think that has bring a lot of divisions among ourselves. So for now, it's about the love that we had previously that is gone, and the unity we had previously that is also no more for now. But my manifesto and the things going wrong in the association, I feel we need to tackle and do a lot of changes. I'll come out with it later on.
Kojo Yanka speaking to Joy Sports on Sports today. That was on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Ghana Football Association Status Review Committee, per Joy Sports sources, have submitted their report to the Executive Council. We understand that they have suggested, as earlier reported by Joy Sports, that the tenure of the president should be extended from 2 to 3 terms. The explanation that was offered is that per the statutes that was put together by the now defunct Normalization Committee, they had indicated that the Executive Council members could go up to 3 terms, but the President could do just 2. They felt in the wisdom of the Football Association and football worldwide, it wouldn't make sense for the President of the association to run for just 2 terms, whilst Executive Council members can do 3 terms. So they are suggesting that Congress should accept an extension of tenure for the President from 2 to 3 terms. They have also recommended that the members of the Executive Council should be increased from 12 to 23. Currently, the Executive Council members are 12, headed by the President of the Ghana Football Association. And the explanation that we were made to understand is that they want to maintain 5 Executive Council members for the Premier League clubs. They also want to give 10 slots to regional football associations to be on the executive committee. And they will also increase the number of representatives for Division 1 clubs from currently 2 to 5. And also, they want to have 2 vice presidents for the Ghana Football Association, of which 1 should be a woman. And they say that if that is done, they will be able to structure the football governing body. In fact, the woman will represent the women's desk when it comes to football in the country. The number of Premier League clubs that would have voting powers in the GFA elections are expected to be reduced from 36 to 18 because the Premier League teams are just 18 of them. Their claims are that FIFA says that no club should have more than 1 rep when it comes to elections. So they have decided that instead of 36 members of the Premier League clubs voting, they're going to reduce it to 8. Those are some of the recommendations that are going to be submitted. In fact, they are currently doing some consultations. They're expected to meet the Premier League clubs on Tuesday. They've already met women's football. They've met PFAG. They have met Division 1 League clubs. Now is the Premier League clubs that they will be meeting next week, Tuesday. Those are some of the details we have gathered so far as the committee submits its report to the Executive Council of the Ghana Football Association. Randy Abe, Frederick Echampong, Oluboy Commodore, now Odofole Norte, who was the lawyer of the Football Association or Normalization Committee when they drafted the statutes, is also in there. Because she drafted the statutes, they think that she should be part of the review of those statutes. And in fact, she's the lawyer of the Ghana Football Association, so just felt that they needed her in there. And then Chief Opong of Young Apostles, he's also in there. So that is the membership of the FA Statutes Review Committee. And as I mentioned, those are some of the things they've put together to be submitted to Congress. The GFA will go to Congress on July 6th. It's unclear if these proposals will be submitted to members of Congress, because we understand that those proposals will be submitted to FIFA for the approval of FIFA before it goes to Congress, for Congress to deliberate and either accept or reject. Those are some of the details that we've been able to gather. We'll be publishing details of what we just mentioned here on My Joy Online just right after this show. Now, let's move on and hear from former Ghana captain Asamoah Gyan. He's been speaking about Chris Hilton. He says that Ghanaians should lower their expectations for the former Norwich, Spurs and Nottingham Forest manager. According to him, though Chris Hilton is very experienced, pressure on him could force him to make some mistakes in his decision making. Though everyone wants Ghana to end its trophy drought in the African Cup of Nations, it is important that Chris Hilton is given the patience to build the team in his own image.
So far, you say you're behind the scene, be contemplating on what to do. Saying football team, yeah, every coach builds a team. You know, I think he needs time and patience to make sure we build a team. You know, for me, what I always say is we should limit our expectation. Now, sometimes we should respect, although it's been 40 years. You know, we have to just forget about everything, build a team once again. If it's a 5-year or 10-year plan, this is what we want to do. But every tournament, of course, Ghana is a football nation, but the expectations are so high, and sometimes put pressure. When we structure everything well, like 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, we need to win a cup. Then you build a team. Forget about the results. When you get to the tournament and it happens that you're going to win, it's a bonus. That is not a plan, but it's a bonus. So everything is about structuring, and I think when we have a bit of patience for Chris, with his experience and everything is up to him. It's either he delivers or not. So it's two things.
That's how we wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. But before I go, a special happy birthday to Rodrika Jemfe. She's domiciled in the USA. It is a birthday message that is coming from her entire family. And they say that with our sincere love and joyfulness, we clearly wish you a happy and wonderful birthday, filled with unlimited joy and with amazing opportunities and overdosed with good health. Happy birthday, Rodrika. That is a message from your family. And on that note, we say thanks very much for joining us. Do head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories. The show continues right after this round of messages.
Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and the House has accordingly given prior approval to the appointment of the nominee to the position of a Chief Justice.
Despite both sides agreeing to approve Justice Tokunu's nomination, the debate leading up to this was ferocious. The minority chief whip tore into some of the Supreme Court's recent judgments.
I think she's got what it takes to be a Supreme Court judge. And I am hopeful, Mr. Speaker, that she will be a better Chief Justice than the person she's taking over from. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? Under the reign of the outgoing Chief Justice, the level of miscarriage of justice in this country reached a crescendo and must never be repeated. And the former Chief Justice must know when he goes home, this miscarriage of justice rests on his chest.
But first, Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Wusu fired back at the minority chief whip, insisting he was on a bad trajectory.
Judges know that as humans they can err, and judges always welcome criticism of their judgment. But when we are critiquing a judgment, it is expected that we will critique the judgment with law, with facts, with alternative argument.
The debate leading to the approval of the nominee centered mainly on the Judge Ikwesin case and whether or not the Supreme Court is amenable to criticism. Former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu argued that the court is not above criticism.
The Supreme Court is not above the criticisms of the Parliament of Ghana. Indeed, in civilized jurisdictions and even in Ghana, the Supreme Court or the courts are servants of the legislature. We make the law. They are to interpret the law. That is why we are enjoined not to use language that is ambiguous. When they are interpreting the law, they are supposed to be guided by the words the legislature uses, that members of parliament uses. So nobody should think that freedom of expression is limited only in our bedrooms of Ghana. That did they construe the words before filing of nominations and before elections? Are those words synonymous? Do they mean the same? Mr. Speaker, I beg to disagree. They probably got it wrong. Before filing nominations cannot be the same thing as at the time of elections. But the legislature make the law, and therefore they ought to consider all other variables in the determination of the decisions that they make. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, you swore in a member of parliament for Kumao. At what material time, Mr. Speaker, did you administer the oath of allegiance to him? and therefore was the Supreme Court making a determination on allegiance to the state, and at what state was Jesse Quayson swearing to an oath of allegiance? Was it at the time of filing or at the time of election or when he swore in this chamber?
However, MP for Ebuako South, Samuel Atachia, warned that the NDC MPs should not turn Parliament into a Supreme Court review chamber.
You know the processes of amendment, which we have even the power to initiate in this House. Mr. Speaker, I agree with you that any time we are in this chamber and then we veer into territories that are not ours, we will make some serious errors.
With the approval of Parliament now out of the way, the only thing stopping Justice Gertrude Tokono of becoming the new Chief Justice of the Republic is the swearing in of the Republic. But we understand that is a given, and as soon as this evening or early tomorrow, President Akufo-Addo will swear her in to become the third female Chief Justice of the Republic, and a lot of people have expressed optimism that she will be the one to turn the tides. In recent times, the Supreme Court and the Judiciary have come under a barrage of criticism, particularly from the opposition NDC and elements within that faction who say that the court's judgments have not been reasoned enough in the Constitution. Reporting for Joy News, Kwiku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
All right, so welcome back to the AM show. We're talking about the appointment of Justice Gertrude Tokono as the third female Chief Justice for the Republic. Now, we've been joined on the line by the GBA General Secretary to help us delve more into, okay, so I'm told it's the PRO rather, to delve more into these issues. Well, we're also expecting to speak with Mahama Yariga, who's lawyer and MP for Central Boko Central, and Joseph Benka, former Deputy Attorney General. But let me start with you, lawyer. Now, you definitely will be dealing directly with the Chief Justice because of your profession. Your reaction on her appointment as the third female Chief Justice of the country, then we can delve into more issues. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, grateful for joining us here on the AM show. First of all, your reaction on her confirmation as the Chief Justice, and then we can delve into other issues.
Yeah, good morning and good morning to your viewers. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please, sir.
Very well. I will start by congratulating her on her approval by Parliament as the incoming CJ. But I must also correct the fact that I think I overheard you say she's the first female Chief Justice.
No,
she's not
third.
the first one.
Third.
Third, okay. Right. So we are congratulating her on her appointment, on her approval by Parliament. I think what is left now is just a matter of court for her to be sworn in.
Okay. Now, you had the MPs there saying that there were some reforms that she had to undertake as a Chief Justice to bring back the sort of reverence that the Supreme Court or the court system had in Ghana. What do you expect her to do to try to revive, in quote, the image of the judiciary?
Thank you very much. I think that the outgone CJ, the immediate past CJ, operated a policy that the bar liked so much. He gave us a lot of access to him. We operated what we call in Ghana an open door policy. And I expect Justice Tokono, the incoming CJ, to do so. She's somebody I personally know. I've had personal encounter with her. Both of us used to serve on the Commercial Court Users Committee. And one key thing we would like her to do is to pay attention to access to justice. And access to justice should not be understood only to mean physical access to courtrooms. Yes, she may have to build a lot more courtrooms in addition to what Chief Justice Eni Ebo has done. But access to justice must be understood to mean speedy adjudication of cases that are before the courts and that may come before the courts. And this will dovetail into the issue of e-justice, which I believe she's the best person ever to do that because she's been a champion of it and she's been a chairman of the committee implementing the e-justice program.
Interesting. So that's a way to make sure that justice delivery is accessible to a lot of Ghanaians.
Exactly so. And anytime we would urge her or we expect her to do a lot of engagement and consultation with the bar and other stakeholders anytime practical and critical reforms are to be introduced because we're going to be those involved in the implementation and we are part of the end user. So I think that a lot more engagement and consultation on her part is important. And that is why I started by saying that we expect her to operate an open door policy. We are always available. And since we are major stakeholders in the administration of justice, I think that a lot more consultation will have to be done with us as far as reforms, critical ones, of course, advancing the cause of justice delivery is concerned.
How critical is this, e-justice system to enhancing justice delivery in this country?
Well, to us, to allow for speedy delivery of justice, what it means is that many of the processes that are done manually will be automated. For instance, service. We may get to a stage where WhatsApp may be used to serve, email may be used to serve. We expect a situation where if you ever have a case this morning and for one reason or the other, the judge will not be able to come, you should be able to have an email early enough or a message, some form of a communication early enough for you not to come around. So that on the part of the lawyers, once that system is there, if a lawyer is handicapped in a way that he may not be able to come to court or do any other thing that is required, then that same system will be activated so that you also communicate to the court. Then it will allow for proper case management and the workload will move smoothly. We will not then be complaining of workload has done this, has done that. It simply put, it will allow for management of the cases and that will enhance justice delivery on time.
What about in terms of the legal education in the country? Any reforms that the GB is looking for her to do to enhance or open up legal education in the country?
I think opening up legal education in the country is a thorny issue, and I don't think that this should be placed at the doorsteps of the Judiciary and, for that matter, the General Legal Council. Practically, what I know is happening is about lack of resources.
Hello, Mr. Kuje.
Call. President went to catch sword around UPSA for the law village. As we speak now, the project has become stagnant. I believe it's because of the lack of funds. The only way I think we can open up, as you say, I think the system is already open up. People are given the opportunity, just that we lack space to admit more. So if commitments can be made by way of financing, so that more classrooms and lecture theaters are constructed, I believe any other person who has the minimum requirement to pursue a professional law course will be admitted. So it's not about the Chief Justice. I think maybe she will have to do a lot more lobbying at the level of the people who hold the purse of the nation so that they can advance some money for her to have that relief.
Okay, stay on the line for me. We've been joined by the former Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Joseph Benka, to help us out here. Ms. Benka, grateful that you could also join us. We also have Mr. Mahama Ayariga, Honorable Member of Parliament for Boko Central. He's a lawyer himself. He's also with us on the line. Mr. Ayariga, good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
And I hope all is well. Well, you are a lawyer. Your side has been calling on the Chief Justice to try and turn around the face of the judiciary in the country. for you as an individual, as a lawyer, what are your expectations of this Chief Justice as she assumes office?
Thank you. Good morning once again to you and your listeners. The central role of the rule of law in the development of the country cannot be overemphasized. And apart from Parliament, which makes the law, the body that will continue to apply it and interpret it and ensure that rule of law is really respected is the judiciary. I mean, businesses will tell you about how the administration of justice can stall the activities of investors, how litigation around land matters can incentivize people to make investments, how the way that we handle commercial disputes can make it more difficult for businesses, and the extent that businesses are not sure, are not certain, cannot be confident about the sanctity of contracts and how they will be dealt with, they will not invest. And, you know, we will have a lot of people graduate from universities and institutions, and they can't find jobs because investors are just not investing. They are not expanding businesses. They are not taking risks because we don't make it easy for them to take certain risks. And so we must see rule of law as a matter that is integral to economic development and expanding economic opportunities. And so a Chief Justice must understand her role in the context of not just simply administering justice, but then also the broader project of establishing Ghana as a country that is based on the rule of law. So I expect that the Chief Justice will deal with all these issues. I think that earlier speaker has already spoken about the nuts and bolts, and so I will not, bore listeners with repeating all those items, except to say that those are all the issues that we expect to see her try to improve on the performance of the judiciary.
It looks, for some time, anytime the Supreme Court gives a ruling, the side that, the ruling does not favor seem to have a challenge with it. What should the new Chief Justice do to ensure that rulings given by the Apex Court is acceptable by all parties?
Well, I think that the Supreme Court is also the Constitutional Court. So they have the basic function of being the ordinary appellate court, where a lot of matters start from the lower court and you can appeal to the Court of Appeal and then ultimately to the Supreme Court. I believe that in many of those cases, there's very little contention in terms of the outcome of... Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening to you, sir.
I'm saying that when it comes to its ordinary appellate jurisdiction, there isn't that much contention. I think that it is in the area of its role as a constitutional court that very often we see controversy around the quality of the outcomes of the decisions of the court. And then, we have on a number of occasions complained about the quality of the reasoning that informs the conclusions of the court. So people must know that the Supreme Court, being a constitutional court, also gives political direction to the country. And in that instance, they must know that they are speaking to the entire population, and especially political groups with interest. And if they don't speak in a language and in a manner that convinces those political groups. Increasingly, their legitimacy will come into question. Remember that the Supreme Court doesn't have its own enforcement apparatus. Its enforcement is largely based on public support and the support of government. Sometimes the decision can go against government, sometimes it can be in favor of government. But the most important thing is that the reasoning that informs the decision must convince the public that the court is right. And so when the public is questioning the quality of the reasoning, it goes to affect the legitimacy of the court. And that is why you see that there's quite some dispute and disagreement in recent times surrounding the work of the Supreme Court. There are a number of landmark cases that many of us, when we analyze them, we just find it difficult to agree with the logic behind the conclusions of the court. And we believe that there's a need for the court to up its game when it comes to these matters.
But how does she do it when it comes down to an individual's interpretation of the ruling of the court?
It would just be an individual's interpretation. At the end of the day, when the court, gives its ruling and it gives the reasoning, there are all of us who will be analyzing the ruling and the reasoning. I mean, yesterday in Parliament, you saw that the approval process was accompanied by some very heated exchanges on the floor. And we just took two issues yesterday, just two issues. One was the conclusion of the court on the use of birth certificate to prove citizenship. And, the minority had issues. And I believe that if you talk to a lot of people, even some judges, behind the scenes will tell you, well, we didn't think that a good job was done. So the birth certificate is a document that gives some basic information. Your name, your parents' name, your parents' nationality, and etc. And then the Supreme Court tells us that, you cannot use your birth certificate to prove your citizenship. We're not saying that the birth certificate is the certificate of citizenship, but we're saying that there is some vital information there that a citizen can use to prove his or her citizenship, because citizenship is derived from your lineage. So if your mother is a citizen of Ghana and your father is a citizen of Ghana, or one of them is a citizen of Ghana, or your grandparents, you can use that document because it is a document issued by the state. And on that document, there is information relating to the citizenship of your parents. And so for somebody who wants to prove his citizenship, you should be able to present that document as the evidence. We're not saying that, once you just bring that, then you are a Ghanaian. But then it is a document from which proof can be provided of the nationality of your parents, and therefore the nationality that you derive thereby. So when the Supreme Court says, no, you cannot use the document, if you can't, so which other documents can you use? Okay. Because the person who is providing you with a Ghana card is using that document. The person who is providing you with a passport is using that document. And these are also documents that have been accepted as documents that can prove your citizenship. So it is that kind of ruling that becomes so divisive. But you see, it is divisive because it is a matter that is tied to elections. And there are very entrenched interests surrounding that. And so when you do that, you present yourself as taking political sides, and yet your reason for taking those sides or that side is so porous. It's just not tenable. So people just feel that, you are just being partisan. And that is the kind of thing that we want the court to move away from. That, look, you don't have to, because it just doesn't, in the opinion of many people, add up. So those are the kind of situations that people will rely on and say the court is taking political side, and yet the argument is not supported. the logic of the argument just doesn't follow.
Let me move to, grateful to you, stay with me. Let me move to Joseph Benka, who is former Deputy Attorney General. Mr. Benka, so you've been listening to your colleague, lawyer, Mahama Yariga. You disagree with him in terms of, what the Supreme Court should do to ensure that their rulings are not taken to be siding with a political leaning?
Well, thanks very much. Good morning to your cherished listeners. Good morning to your good self and to my brother, the Honorable Mama Ayaraga, my very good brother. You have to, everything that you say will have to be situated within a certain context. First of all, if you look at the argument my brother is making about the birth certificate, and if you listen to the now Chief Justice, who has just been confirmed, when she was being vetted, she made a very categorical position on this matter. I think that the birth certificate, from what the Supreme Court has actually said, cannot be a conclusive document as to citizenship. It may be just a prima facie evidence that cannot be conclusive. Because in the end, it may be rebuttable. Because remember that there are some people who go for these birth certificates. They may provide some information to the officers who are going to process these documents that are untrue. So if anybody can prove that those pieces of information you provided to get a birth certificate were untrue, and so you are not actually a citizen of Ghana, then it means that the birth certificate is in that particular circumstance impeached. So it cannot be conclusive. That is the reasoning. It cannot be conclusive. But you see, one thing I think we should be doing in this discourse is that in making a discussion of this particular, we should situate it within the context of the reasoning they provide and criticize the reasoning, but not just make general and categorical statements about these judgments, especially giving them some political coloration. Because when judgments are delivered and they are not in your favor, and you make comments as though you've lost because of your political coloration, then you try to stigmatize the court and stereotype them in a manner that you hand them over to the public for consumption that will not be good for our democracy. So, for example, when recently the two decisions were rendered, rather interestingly, there was wild jubilation by a section of the population. The case on Domelevu, for example, and then also the case that came before the court to pronounce on the president's powers as far as the emergency act that we enacted in Parliament was concerned. Those two, the Supreme Court declared them as unconstitutional. The people who, architects or the plaintiffs who went to court and the lawyers, the civil society organizations and etc., celebrated it and celebrated the Supreme Court. Now, anytime they render a decision against a certain population, a section of the population, or a certain group of people, then you find that the people try to read meanings into the decision as though the court did it out of malice and without reason. And remember that the court is bound by law to give reasoned decisions for whatever position it takes. So all the decisions that are being criticized by people, there are reasons that the court gave for arriving at what it did. It didn't just arrive at that overnight and out of the blue and out of nothing. It indeed did so by following a certain procedure. And in fact, if you read the cases carefully, they normally would, and we are not going to go deep into law now, they normally would give you the cases that they are going to rely on by their own decisions, and sometimes they go out of the country. In this particular case, they cited some American authorities, which are persuasive authority and etc., and then they arrived at their conclusions and rendered a decision. When I heard people criticize that, for example, the equation decision of the Supreme Court and say that the court should have applied MOPA or modern purposive approach to interpretation and read the provision to mean that it is at the time that you are filing.
Okay.
But not at the time you are filling the form. That is what the argument of critics of the system are actually saying. But when you flip it, the other fundamental thing is I have contested elections on 2 occasions. When you are going to contest, you take the form from the Electoral Commission. You are supposed to make some declarations, and the declarations are supposed to be signed by a commissioner for oath or a magistrate. Now, I go to state that I don't owe allegiance to any other country, and then the commissioner for oath signs. What's the implication? It tells me that at that date that I'm making that declaration, I am convicted without any shred of doubt that I don't owe allegiance to any other country. So if at that date that I make the declaration on the form which is signed and commissioned by the commissioner for oath, I owe allegiance to another country. The Supreme Court says at that particular moment, because of the declaration I made, which at that moment I did not, I owed allegiance to another country or had citizenship of another country, then I was not qualified to contest. That's the reasoning the Supreme Court gave.
So on that score,
they have gone ahead to say that it should have applied to when the filing was done and not the form was. But the form itself, what is on it? So if we think as a people that is wrong, then we fashion out our systems in a manner that will accommodate for it going forward. But until that is done, that is currently the situation. That you make the declaration at the time you are filling the form, not at the time of the election. So that's urging them to make that pronouncement that they should have applied a positive approach and said that at the time of filing, but not filling the form. Then what's the effect of the content on the form?
You have served as a Deputy Attorney General before. What do you look up to this Chief Justice to do in enhancing justice delivery in this country?
Thank you very much. In that regard, I will say that some of the issues that Honorable Mama Yarika said, I will agree with him. You know, the Chief Justice performs a dual role. The dual role as a judge and then as an administrator. So she is, so to speak, the overall chief administrator of the judiciary and provides leadership and direction. And remember that he's the only person who is a member of all the courts. So the Chief Justice can sit as a magistrate, can sit as a circuit court judge, can sit as a high court judge, can sit as a court of appeal judge, and can sit as a Supreme Court judge. And when sitting, of course, she provides the judicial rule at that particular moment. And while performing her role in her office as Chief Justice to oversee, supervise, and take charge of the judiciary, then she's performing the administrative role. So 2 things will have to happen. You have to manage the 2 in a manner that will ensure that some of the doubts and criticisms, which are well-intentioned, are actually corrected going forward. For example, I was a member of the General Legal Council for 4 years. And of course, you bring issues about legal education, which is so dear to my heart, because I come from a very underprivileged background. And probably, as I have always said and repeatedly said, at the time I went to the law school, if circumstances were as they are now, I'm not too sure whether I would have been there. So I think that the idea of opening up legal education should be one of the things that she should leave as a legacy when she leaves office. And she has to fashion out a system that will accommodate the many numbers that are coming out and without compromising quality. And that is why I have subscribed to the argument by somebody like Professor Kwekwaza, who says that, look, liberalize it like it has happened with the accounting institutions and etc. And make sure that you supervise. To ensure that at the end of the day, all those who have LLB have an opportunity to do the deal. And you would then regulate and make sure the standards are not compromised. But because of space, you go and 3,500 people go to write the exam and 500 people are picked. And that pass mark is just basically because of space. We can give all the reasons and explanations. The fundamental reason is because of space. And so if we are unable to have enough space, we should liberalize it, allow the faculties, strengthen them, and supervise, as we used to do when I was a member. And then make sure that, standards are raised at that particular level in the LLB. So I think that in legal education, that's what she could do. And then also, when you look at the judgments, as rightly pointed out by the Honorable Mama Yariga, if investors are not having confidence in the court, nobody will come and put the money here, because you can go with a simple matter, liquidated demand, and then it takes you years to be able to get judgment and all that. That would be most unfortunate. Nobody will try. So that we have to also look at expedition of trials, but without compromising quality and decision. Because justice delayed, as they say, is justice denied, but also justice rushed is justice buried. So we make, a balance of the two and ensure that we give confidence to the population that when you are here and then your rights are infringed upon, your rights will be protected by the court expeditiously.
Okay, all right. Grateful to you. Let me turn to Xavier Kwaku Kuje now. Mr. Kuje, so just about wrapping up from your end in the next minute for me, what would be your concluding remarks as we wrap up the discussion, especially when she is about taking office?
Remarks would be that she must show leadership, and leadership means doing more than just occupying the position of authority. I say this because at every level of our leadership in this country, we assume everybody who occupies a position of authority is a leader. That is not so. You can occupy a position of authority, yet you are not a leader. So I expect her to do a lot more. And then my last comment will be on the delay in that the commercial, as far as commercial adjudication is concerned. She's one person I believe will be able to do something about it, because if you remember, I mentioned that I serve with her on the Commercial Court Users Committee. All we're trying to do is reduce the time at which judgment or rulings are made at the commercial court, especially when it comes to execution of those judgments as far as business people are concerned. So I wish her well, and I know and I trust she will be a wonderful leader as far as the judicial service is concerned. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kuje, I'm grateful to you. So Xavier Kwaku Kuje is Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Bar Association. I'm still on with Mr. Penka, Joseph Penka, and Mahama Ayariga. Now, we're going to veer off into the latest development with regards to the Special Prosecutor's Office and the former Minister for Environment, Science and Innovation, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. Yesterday, it came out that he had been arrested by the OSP and had been granted bail. We went to his house to have an interaction with him on that particular matter, and a varied array of issues with regards to the operations of the IMCIM when he was chairman. Listen.
I don't know the legal definition. Maybe yes, but maybe not. I'm on bail. So the background is that I think on the 13th or 14th of May, I received a letter from the Special Prosecutor to appear before him. I should report at 10 a.m. on the 16th of May, which I did. The letter said that they were investigating corruption and corruption-related activities of the IMCIM. I was a little bit disturbed.
And ICIM is Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining.
Yes. I thought that they were going to talk about how to stop the IMCIM and all these things. But anyway, so I went there and waited at the lobby. When my lawyer was in, we were ushered to the 7th floor where the office of the Special Prosecutor was. I was ushered into a room, given a seat, and next to me, on my right, were my lawyers, and opposite me was the senior, or the principal investigator, I think that was the title, and some officers from that office. So as soon as I sat down, the chief investigator walked over to me, put his left hand on my shoulder and said, "You are under arrest." I said, why am I under arrest? What are my charges? Well, no specific charges, but we are investigating corruption and corruption-related activities of the IMCIM, that is the committee I chaired. And he asked whether I was ready to answer some questions. I said, well, I'll do my best to answer the questions. So I was asked a lot of questions. Took about 2 hours, or a little bit over 2 hours. And after that, I was told that I had to be bailed before I'll be released. I was not offered the opportunity of self-recognizance bail. So a friend of mine was at the lobby, so he came up and bailed me, and I left. And I was told that if the need arose, I'll be invited back to the office. So that's what happened. And of course, some officers from the OSPs went to see my friend's place where he was staying to make sure that if I absconded, they will be able to get hold of my friends to produce me before the court. Yeah. So this is what happened.
What was the sum, the bill sum, the conditions attached to it?
I was told 2 million cedis or so, if I'm not mistaken.
2 million cedis. Did they also send a team to your house?
No, they did not come to my house.
But they verified the residential address of your friend who had bailed you out. Okay. And the questions that they asked you, what did it relate to?
Relate to everything that we did at the IMCIM, but I'm not sure whether I can go over those questions because this is a prosecutor, they're investigating, and I don't feel comfortable, going over the questions. So if you permit me, let's. But it was a broad-based question, a lot of questions on many topics, and I answered as best as I could, and so that was it.
Okay, they had invited you, so this is you honoring the invitation to go to the Special Prosecutor's Office that day with your lawyers?
Yes.
Okay, but in the letter that was inviting you, has it specified that you're going to be assisting or you're going to be a person of interest?
Person of interest. Something like that.
Okay. Around the work that related to the Interministerial Committee on Legal Mining. Yes. Today, we had heard and reported that it had to do with some expenditure around the IMCI's work, more than 300 million cedis that had been spent on drones, etc. Did anything like that come up in these questions?
I didn't hear the figure of 300 million, but a lot of questions about drones and other things. As I said, I'm not very comfortable going over because they're investigating and they took notes, they did recording, so what took place. So the important thing is that I was invited there, I was questioned, and I answered the questions as best as I could, but that was it.
Have you been asked to surrender your passports? Have they told you can travel? You have to check with them if you do?
No. There was nothing like that.
Okay.
So that was Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng in that interaction with my colleague Evans Mings in his house yesterday. Well, I still have Mr. Mahama Yarga and Mr. Joseph Benka on the line. Let me start with you, Mr. Yarga. So your thought on this particular move by the OSP and the sort of explanation that Professor has given us here at Joy News.
Well, I mean, the point is that he hasn't really answered the questions that will enable people like us to comment on the matter. I mean, I won't just run a commentary because OSP office has invited somebody. I need to know why they have invited him and what the issue is, and then we can have a discussion. The OSP has not issued a statement giving the details of what informed the invitation. He himself has declined to be specific. Just a bit of it, which is about drones. Even there, he hasn't given you details of what it is about drones. Is it that drones were purchased and then there's some suspicion that in the procurement of the drones, some corrupt, practices were involved, or something of that sort. So that is the issue. Not enough detail for one to really run a commentary on what happened. The most important thing, of course, is that OSP's office invited him, and it's a body that we passed a law establishing to investigate and then to prosecute cases of corruption or corruption-related offenses. So if they think they have done investigations and then there's a basis for arresting and then further investigating, we cannot stop that. And we only have to commend him that as a law-abiding citizen, when he was invited, he made himself available to them for them to do their work. And he's actually cooperating by even staying away from commenting on the interrogation exercise that has taken place. So I will commend him for the cooperation. But beyond that, I can't say much about what happened because none of them have told us what happened in detail.
Now, in a statement, the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Jabeng, the OSP said the investigation targeted some officials of the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources and the Forestry Commission. It also targeted the activities and expenditure of the dissolved Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, especially in respect to the seizure and management of excavators, machinery, road vehicles, and gold nuggets. And we understand that per the law, if you're a person of interest and you're invited to the Special Prosecutor's office, you can, one, be detained or be arrested and then be given bail. So does it tell all of us that, well, the OSP is really doing what we expect it to do?
Oh, well, I mean, it's the outcome that really matters. At the end of the day, what is the quality of work that has been done? And then what is the outcome? So we only need to monitor what is happening. They've just issued a general statement about issues that they are looking into. And when they conclude the investigation, they will give an indication if they think that they have a basis for instituting prosecutions against anyone, and what will the charges be. And that is where I think we should all be interested in. And then, it then goes to court. So I will not be in a hurry to say that the Special Prosecutor is doing its work. As for inviting people, that really is not anything. You can invite people. What work do you do when you invite them? For me, is the issue.
Let me turn to Mr. Penkana. Mr. Penkana, yesterday, if you listened to that interaction with Evans Mensah, he sought to say that it looks like certain people are witch hunting him unnecessarily with this whole Galamsey matters. Is that really the case when the OSP says, well, I'm trying to delve into activities of the IMCIM with regards to expenditure and how utilization of the machinery, the road vehicles, and the gold nuggets that were seized from illegal mining sites?
I think that to talk about the word witch hunt, it will mean that one is seized with all the facts and one has come to the conclusion that there is actually much ado about nothing, and that we are just going after the person because maybe he has said one or two things that, in your opinion, you are not comfortable. And so you are coming up with sometimes trumped-up charges and just trying to silence the person. And that will be witch hunting. But I am most used to the details of the facts to come to that conclusion at all. And so I'm not able to subscribe to that conclusion that is witch hunt. Because remember that the Special Prosecutor is dealing with a particular law. And any person who thinks that the Special Prosecutor is stepping out of bounds or is infringing on his rights, the courts are there to vindicate the person's rights and etc. Because before the Special Prosecutor embarks on that journey of investigating, either there's a complaint or it's triggered by the Special Prosecutor's suspicion that credibly there's a particular crime that has been committed in an area, then they can go in to do the investigation. So all the details are very sketchy, whether there is a petition or it's triggered by the report that Prof himself wrote to the presidency, which was later leaked and then the media discussed it extensively and etc. We don't know. Everything we do will remain in the realm of speculation for now. So the issue of witchcraft, witch hunting, for me at this particular moment, I will discard it right away and rather wait and see the detailed information that will come out of the office of OSP to be able to see it within the context of the law, whether or not there was any breach at all. And if there was any breach, what exactly was it? Was it a corruption or corruption-related offense? If you're talking about, for example, when you hint the issue of drones, the acquisition, is it that proper procedures were not followed? One, that it didn't comply with the PPA. Two, is it that there was inflation of figures? Whatever it is, at this particular moment, any commentary that one runs on it will remain in the realms of conjecture and speculation. So if we get the fine details, we'll be able to break it down and know and then discuss it and know whether or not, even by the basic facts that we are confronted with, whether a crime has been committed. And if it has been committed, who are supposed to answer those questions. At this particular moment, it's too early to draw any conclusions. When the details emerge, we'll be able to run a very well-informed commentary. And because yesterday when I followed social media, it was very interesting commentary that was run. If you did follow it too, as I did. Because, people ran their own commentary and came to conclusions that Prof was being witch-hunted and that the Prof fought corruption and corruption is fighting him. A lot of things, because at the end of the day, if you send an empty matter to court, you get nothing out of it. Because you cannot convict a person on the basis of trump-up charges. So in the end, if Prof is an innocent citizen, then the matter goes to court eventually. It will be proven. But remember that at this particular moment, the matter is not even in court. They are investigating. And if Prof provides answers that satisfy them, why would there be the need to proceed with it to court? It's too early in the day. Okay. If at the end they find a case against him, they will proffer the appropriate charges in accord with the act and proceed to court. And the court will make a pronouncement having listened to both sides.
Is the OSP right to invite an arrest?
Yeah, it's within the context of the OSP Act. You see, the Act, unlike the Office of the Attorney General, we do prosecutions. They investigate, they prosecute, and they recover. They do three things there. So they have the Department of Investigations, Department of Prosecution, and Department of Recovery. Remember, as I said, I really participated from the beginning to the end on the enactment of this act. And I had the opportunity to travel out of Ghana to be able to learn better experiences elsewhere, to try and see if we could replicate it here. So clearly, they have the power of arrest, they have the power of investigation and prosecution, as the case may be, and then the power of asset recovery. So what they did was not unlawful. Arrest is part of their mandate.
Lawyer Yaraga, some call this ambush. In the law, we've made to understand that, well, it lies in the powers that they do have. How do we then address the concerns of people who want to describe this as an ambush?
Really, I have been through the process that he is describing. I will be surprised if he just went into the office and then they came and tapped his shoulder and said, "You are under arrest." I would think that they would have sat with him, they would have mentioned to him what they are investigating, and then they would have said, well, on the basis of what we found out so far, we will say that we are treating you as being under arrest now, but then we'll grant you bail to go, and anytime we need you, we will invite you for further questioning and etc. That would be the way that they would have conducted themselves. You won't just walk in and they will come and then tap your shoulder and say you're under arrest. So I don't know if you actually presented it in the chronological order in which it happened. Otherwise, if you invite somebody to your office and he comes, sometimes the arrest might not even be necessary because he has shown himself as somebody who is willing to attend to your invitation anytime you invite him or her. But then if you still feel insecure about that person turning up anytime you invite the person, and you still want to go through the motion of having arrested the person and getting the person on bail with some guarantees of the person being produced anytime you want the person, you can do that, and the OSP has the powers to do that. So I don't know why people think that this is an ambush. They can come and arrest you at home if they want. They can invite you, and then when you come, they will tell you either after interrogation or any time that you are being arrested, you'll be granted bail, so that there's a guarantee that you'll be produced anytime they want you. But I don't think that it's something that we should really worry our heads about.
So it's not really an abuse of power.
Oh no, I mean they could go to his house and arrest him if they want. They can go and then get an arrest warrant and go and arrest him if they want. But then they invite me and then he turns up. At the meeting they can tell him that he's being arrested and then granted bail. And, that is it. They have the power to do that.
So in this particular matter, you with your vast understanding of how the law works, what is your expectation of how it should progress from where we are now?
Well, they will invite him, I believe, several times to ask him a few questions, because I'm sure he's not the only person they are talking to.
Yes.
Interrogating either witnesses or suspects. And based on what information becomes available to them, they will firm up their position on what charges they should prefer against him, if they should be preferring charges at all. And then, based on that, they will one day tell him that you are being charged with XYZ, offenses. Our investigations reveal to us that you have done A, B, C, D, and that conduct, constitutes offenses XYZ, and so we are charging you with these offenses. And they may tighten the terms of the bail, and then they will, give an indication of when they will be going to court, and then they will go to court. But if they conduct their investigations and then they conclude that no offense has been committed, but at this stage, even to say they are arresting, they definitely have concluded that some offenses have been committed. So you don't just arrest somebody because you are conducting investigations. You only decide to arrest because you are convinced that the person has committed a certain offense. But you see, he refused to answer those questions that you are putting to him. Maybe if he had revealed everything that happened, we may have gotten to know that they specifically concluded on some charges, and that formed the basis of their decision that no, he ought to be arrested. Because you don't just arrest somebody because you're investigating. If you don't conclude that some offense has been committed, you don't arrest, in my opinion. And the Attorney General, former Deputy Attorney General, is on the line, so he can confirm. So when you decide that you are arresting, it is usually because you have concluded that the person has committed some offenses.
Interesting. All right, so it means that from where the case is, we can then assume that because they arrested him, there's been some preliminary information to then point to the fact that he deserves to be arrested.
Exactly. Otherwise, if you are just investigating a matter, why would you arrest me? Especially when you invite me and I come. So it means that anytime you invite me, I will come. So what is the basis of putting me through the process of effecting an arrest and then asking me to apply for bail and then be granted bail and all that.
Okay, so it means that the law gives him power to do that only when there is enough evidence to put someone under arrest.
I think that you will decide to arrest somebody when you have made up your mind that the person has committed some offense. Otherwise, if you are just investigating, you will not take a decision to arrest. So I believe, and I'm cautious because he himself refused to answer a lot of the questions you put to him and said that he didn't want to reveal what happened. But my own experience of how this works is that you will not be arrested if they don't think you have committed an offense.
So is this something you expect the OSP to come out to help us cure the sort of lacuna that is there now?
I didn't hear you.
Is it something that you expect the OSP to come out with more details to help cure the vacuum that has been created in terms of what led to the arrest and all of that?
Exactly. It is in the interest of transparency and accountability in terms of the conduct of public institutions that if the man has come out to tell us that he was arrested, that the OSP should tell us why he was arrested so that we know. I mean, it's a public institution. They are equally accountable to all of us. If he didn't tell us that he has been arrested, we probably would not be interested in the why. But once he has told us that he has been arrested, we might be interested in knowing why. And so information coming from the OSP will help the public to follow development in that regard.
All right. So, Mr. Pemka, from going forward with this particular issue, what's your own expectation, having been a former Attorney General and having been versed in this particular creation of this office?
As the Honorable Mama Yarga has said, he's hitting it right on the head. You see, when he was invited, he could have been invited as a witness as well. Sometimes they're investigating someone, and then they call you because they think that you have some information that will help in building a case against the person they are investigating. So he could have been invited as a witness, in which case they would not have told him that you are under arrest. They would have told him that, look, we are investigating this matter and we think that you have some information that will help us in the investigation. So we are calling you to give us your statement on the matter and all that. So that one, you are just invited as a witness. But what he has told us, he was arrested. And so definitely, at the day that they released him on bail, they would have taken what we call the caution statement from him. The caution statement is a preliminary statement from you after they have told you the reason of your arrest. You write that as your explanation to that suspected offense. Then when they then continue the investigations, they will invite him, as the Honorable Mama Yarga said, they'll be inviting him from once in a while, they'll invite him to come over to clarify or give more information. Then they would continue the investigations till when they are satisfied that, look, they have built a case, then they will then invite him to charge him. So at this particular moment, he has not been charged and put before court. He has been cautioned. So it's a process. After the caution, a number of times he'll be invited again for clarifications, and if they are convicted that he is actually supposed to answer, then he then will be charged. But I agree totally with the Honorable Mama Yarga that the office of the Special Prosecutor, being a public office as it is, should not allow the public to remain in the realm of speculation and discussion with uninformed opinions because of lack of facts. The basic facts surrounding this should be made available so as people to be able to interrogate and not allow issues to remain in the realm of speculation and conjecture where people will proffer opinions that will be completely uninformed on the basis of scanty information available to them. But there's still a long way to go. this is just a caution case. We'll have to move through that until the person is charged and then put before court and so on. So a lot is still going to be expected in this matter. And remember that all that they are doing must be in compliance with law, and especially the law that established the office of the special prosecutor. In the end, if anybody feels that his right has been infringed upon one way or the other, again you have the right to seek legal redress to vindicate those rights in a competent court, such as the High Court.
Okay, Mr. Kpemka, I'm grateful to you for joining us here, and to Mr. Mahama Yarga as well. I'm grateful that you both could spare some time for us on the show this morning. Have a good day, sirs. You're so watching the AM show. Just gone by, we've been talking about the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the matter with Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. We've also been looking at the appointment of Justice Gertrude Tokonu as Chief Justice. She becomes the third female Chief Justice for the country. Well, coming up after the break, the United Nations is commemorating World Oceans Day under the theme Planet Ocean Tides Are Changing. We're having the UN is joining forces with decision makers, scientists, private sector executives, civil society representatives, indigenous communities, celebrities, and youth activists, and more to put the ocean first. We've got that on our plate this morning. We're asking the relevant questions, how we can really achieve the target of ensuring that the right things are done on the ocean in respect to IUU, the irregular, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing practices that put our ocean at danger. We'll be delving more into that with people who really know more about the ocean here on the AM show. It's an interaction that you wouldn't want to miss. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you feel you're being victimized?
I think so.
Why do you think so?
What have I done wrong in this country? If 0.001% of people behave like what I've done, this country will not be the way it is. I mean, look, I bought a whole hospital, trained people, Ghanaians, heart surgeons, trained people from Nigeria, Ethiopia, changed Kolebu. After Gojisberg and Nkrumah, Frimpong Boateng was the person who added structures and systems to Kolebu, with internally generated funds, not money from the government. I changed the way Ghana Red Cross functioned. As chairman of the PIC, I did a lot for this country. And as minister, I introduced a lot of things. If I pursue them, we have made a lot of change in this country. The things that I initiated when I was minister, most of them have been abandoned.
Well, welcome back from the break. Now, June 8th every year is celebrated across the world as World Oceans Day. The day is marked annually to celebrate our world's shared ocean and our personal connection to the sea, as well as to raise awareness about the crucial role the ocean plays in our lives and the important ways people can help protect it. There's a global sounding clarion call for us to protect the ocean from unsustainable practices and ensuring a future of thriving marine life for generations to come. Well, this morning we've been joined by Professor Wisdom Akpalo, Dean of the School of Research and Graduate Studies, GIMPA, Director for Environment for Development Initiative in Ghana. Prof is with me in the studio. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
I hope all is well. I wish there was a greeting we could greet you. It was a Janama Farifo, is that how they call it?
Yeah.
A Janama Farifo. Yankopo or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't speak the language.
Anyway, so Prof is with us here. We're also joined, or we will be joined via Zoom by Dr. Edna Kwansa, Manager Fisheries Science and Research at the Environmental Justice Foundation, EJF, a foundation that's been doing a lot of work in the marine sector. and as well as the environmental sector too. And then also Nana Joe Solomon, acting president, Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council. And you won't talk fisheries issues in Ghana without this man. He's really there, at every turn that you do have in terms of the fisheries sector. Prof, let me start with you here. So as we speak, what are the major issues confronting fisheries or the ocean in this country? Let's start off from home, then we can go worldwide.
Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. Our problems are quite many, and let me begin from here. When you look at the catches that we've been getting from our ocean over the years, from 1992, thereabout, coming down, you realize that the catches have been going down. In fact, catch per vessel, which we also call catch per unit effort, has been declining rapidly. A canoe, for example, would have caught about 35 tons a year, but now catches about 15. So you can see that catch levels have gone down. And why are we experiencing catch levels going down? It's all because we have overcapacity. There are too many vessels out there catching fish. And in addition to us having too many canoes catching fish, we also have foreign vessels. Some are branded as Ghanaian vessels that are also catching fish that our locals are supposed to be catching, and therefore reducing the stock and for that matter, the catch that every canoe can catch, and then reducing their income levels that are falling about 40% from 2006 to the current, and so on and so forth.
So it means that we are overfishing?
We are overfishing. Because of overcapacity, we have too many vessels. We have about 12,000 plus, depending on where you look, canoes. We are supposed to have about 8,000, 9,000 of them to be able to generate the highest benefit from the fisheries. And then in addition to that, we have these trawlers that have done a lot of harm over the years. A few things have changed recently, but they've done a lot of harm, targeting the small pelagic or fishes that normally are caught by the small scale fishers, and thereby worsening the situation over time.
But I believe there's someone in charge,
yes,
of regulating the activities of these canoes and vessels. So why are we overfishing when someone's job is to ensure that the sector is regulated to the benefit of the players?
Well, the reasons are quite many. First of all, there's what we call misperception of biophysical dynamics of the stocks, in the sense that because of the way fish, you cannot observe fish in water, in the ocean. And as a result, we have this misperception that the sea can never dry. So those who live by the sea, although they see the trend going down, they always want to attribute it to something else than themselves. We have what we call self-serving bias. They always say, well, somebody else is causing the problem or something else. So that is one of the problems, that there is misperception of the dynamics of the stocks, the fact that the stocks are going down, and we don't seem to appreciate that from the point of view of resource users. And from the point of view of politicians, and here I'm not referring to any particular political party or anything, fishermen constitute a big force, a big political capital, and you don't want to lose that. So if they don't want to comply with you to implement some of these regulations that will have short-term consequences, make it harder for them to survive within the very short term when the policies are introduced, it is very difficult on the part of regulators or political those who are in charge to implement some of those policies. So there is some reluctance for fear of losing political capital. They may vote against you if you do the right things. And then there is also the political interest, where people make money directly. Our politicians tend to make money directly, illegally, from some of these activities. So they don't want to change things. So this has been the trend over the years. And as I said, we've seen some positive changes occurring, recently. But then we still need to do a lot more if we have to bring the situation under control.
Interesting. Yeah. So it means that the fishermen themselves or the sector players themselves are the cause of where we are.
Partly the cause. Partly the cause because, this is a common pool resource or an open access resource. If you don't catch it, someone else goes to catch it. So when you have a resource that is managed as an open access, where every Ghanaian who can acquire a vessel can go there and catch fish, that resource can easily be depleted. Everybody is running out there to catch the fish, so the resource can get depleted. So the nature of the management of this resource becomes part of the problem. And in addition to that, plays in this political interest where politicians who are supposed to regulate the resource are afraid that if they do so, they may suffer some consequences. So they are very reluctant to enforce some of these regulations. And in addition to that, there are also situations where playing that game also brings in some direct returns. For example, we have a situation where there is clear overcapitalization, many vessels, too many of them, and we are losing, for the artisanal alone, we are potentially losing about $100 million a year because of the overcapitalization. Because if you reduce the capacity, the fish stock the stock will grow up, will multiply, and then we can get more catch and more money. So we are potentially losing about $100 million. So the question is, if we have overcapacity of over 4,000 canoes or 5,000 canoes, why do you continue to subsidize the main fishing input, which is fishing fuel? So fishermen can easily buy it at 30% of the market price, go out there and chase the last fish to catch. It's because when the subsidies are rolled out, not all the subsidized fuel actually goes to the fishermen. Some are diverted, and this is no secret. So this becomes a gain for those who are involved. So that becomes part of the challenge. So for us to fight this problem, there is the need for us to, work around all these issues.
All right, grateful. Let me go on Zoom now and speak to Nana Jojo Solomon, who is acting president, Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council. Nana, good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm great. Well, the Prof has made it clear that where we are is partly as a result of the activities of fishermen. I hope do you agree with him that that is the case?
Partly yes, partly no.
Okay, why do you say so?
Yes, the statement, partly it's the fault of fishers, but me, I think it's a little bit prejudiced because there are a lot of players within the sector. Like you rightly asked, Professor Akwalu, my comrade. Comrade, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. The truth of the matter is that we have managers or regulators whose core mandate is to ensure that we are doing the right things. Yes, in every society, and especially looking at the numerical strength of the artisanal industry, yes, we're so huge that sometimes control is a little bit of a problem. But we cannot put all the problems at the doorstep of the fishermen. People are paid with the taxpayers' monies to ensure that after going to their fishing schools and being fishing scientists and whatnot, they have a job to do. Again, we are looking at those who have been mandated to also police our marine waters. We have the Marine Police, we have the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, we have the Monitoring, Control and Surveillance Unit. Again, we even have the Navy, who also, from time to time, even though it's not their core mandate, help, with enforcement. What are all these people doing? I even look at EPA, And then I don't know how they manage our toxic waste from the factories and from the industrial sectors. You know, they all end up in the sea. You understand? And therefore, and I also believe that because of technology, fishermen are no more using, you know, the old containers where they go with cups and take their water and, you know, their potable water or the drinking water. You know, so now they're all using sachet. Where does it end? Do we want to be reactive or we have to be proactive? By now, I believe that the patents or the innovations must come with how fishermen, you know, drink water at sea that will be environmentally friendly. You know, all these things. So it is a multi-sectoral area where you cannot wait till there's crisis and then go and put it at the doorstep of the fishermen. Even the capacity of fishermen, you know, must be built by the regulators, by the scientists, by people like Professor Palu, you know, who, you know, I stand up for him, you know. Anytime he has the opportunity, he also does his human job. But I'm saying that we fishers cannot take the blame. If the blame is 100%, we will take about 20%. Now let's look at those who also, you know, have the mandate to execute the 80%. So that is why I said yes and no. Yes, we are partly the reason.
Well, Nana, but when it comes to illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, I mean, the person who is to regulate the sector might not be in the canoe when you are deep in the ocean. It then falls directly at you, the fisherman, who is going to fish, to ensure that you don't allow yourself and your colleagues to do the things that they say they shouldn't do. When you do them, you are hurting your job, your livelihood. Isn't that the case? That you fishers should probably say that, well, for us to deal with the problems confronting us in terms of IUU, we have to take the responsibility.
I agree with you, sir. I agree with you. The issue itself is that sometimes, you know, especially looking at the literacy level of the industry itself, some people may be doing things that are not environmentally friendly, that goes to hurt the ocean, that goes to hurt, you know, Mother Nature. But they don't know. You know, they have been to fishing schools. We haven't been to fishing schools. We are just peasant fishers. And therefore, that's why I said our capacities must be built. You understand? All this is going to, so it is not as a result of, we do not support any form of wrongdoing. And Professor Palu will tell you that as Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council, superintending over the artisanal fishery in Ghana, we work hand in hand with the regulators. We work hand in hand with enforcement. You understand? But like I'm saying, if you look at from the Volta region to the Western region, an industry that directly or indirectly, you know, support livelihoods of about 3 million adult population. You understand? And like I said, the size of the industry is such that you get all manner of people there. And therefore, it is about we alone cannot profess to have all the answers to the questions. You understand? And therefore, I believe that those who have been to the school, who are, you know, knowledgeable, those who have been given the power to enforce, policy makers, like Professor Palu is saying, some policy makers do not even want to see the laws, you know, see the light of day. You understand? Because they have political interests here and there. It is an industry that, you know, promotes a lot of cartel activities, and therefore it's not very easy for us alone as Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council to control. You understand? Especially now too that we have oil and gas, you know, within the marine space, and looking at, you know, our neighbors in Nigeria, what has happened, Somalia, what has happened. It is not. It's not that easy.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're also joined by Dr. Edna Kwanzaa, a manager in charge of fishery science and research at the Environmental Justice Foundation, EJF. Doc, grateful for joining us. Has research been able to point out the real impact of IUU on our fishery sector?
Good morning, and good morning to Professor Palu and Nana Jojo. Thank you so much. Yes, research has been able to point to the impacts of IUU in our sector. And when Professor Palu was speaking, he mentioned the fact that the industrial trawlers have done some harm, although there are some interventions now and some efforts which are helping them to be better. They did some harm in the past, and this is on the issue of IUU, specifically on cycle. And in our research, we were able to identify that this was really a cause or a factor in depleting our fish stocks, especially the small pelagics, which is largely depended on by the small-scale fisheries. And so we at EJF, we do a lot of in-house research where we look at the bycatch that is coming from the industrial trawl to see what they are catching, whether they are supposed to catch exactly what they are mandated to catch. And then we look at this against the law, specifically the LI 1968, to look at the sizes that they are catching. Whatever they are bringing out of the waters, is this right according to law per the sizes they are catching of the demersal species, and even if they have small pelagic species in their waters. So yes, research has been able to identify all these impacts to the sector or to the fisheries resources.
But in terms of monetary value, the Prof was mentioning some 100 million that we lose as a result of, the over capacity in terms of the canoes that we have. Do we know how much we lose due to this IUU activities that the farmers, the fishers do engage in?
Yes, so the economists have done all these calculations, and for research in terms of the stock assessment, while the stock is being assessed to see how much we really have, we also have the MEY, that's the maximum economic yield, which looks at exactly how much of the stocks we need and how much we will be able to get in terms of our value. So these have been done by the economists to determine exactly the $100 million that are being lost in our fisheries resources.
Interesting. Nana was saying that fishers cannot really take it alone and that they need their capacities to be built. But I have followed the sector for a very long time. When I was at ATL, there was a program dedicated to fishers, and this is like, over a decade ago. So can we really say that fishers still don't have, don't understand the impact of this and that there's more to be done? If there's more to be done, what else do we need to do?
Yes.
Doc, I put this to Prof, sorry.
Oh, okay. I think to a very large extent, Nana is right that fishers alone cannot take the blame.
That's true.
And a typical situation is when we had this close season. You can see that a survey that we did, majority of them actually complained that they do not have any alternative livelihoods. In fact, over 80% do not have any alternative livelihoods. And they did not basically support, they didn't want the season to be closed because it really had a serious impact on their livelihood. But then they also agreed that once it is implemented, they have to obey. And as you could see, there were no serious instances of anyone going to sea. So fishers, although they could be difficult in some situations because of the fact that they live off these resources, they comply by regulations when they are, convinced about it. So it's possible to manage fishers if you are able to provide them with a lot of information and educate them and help them to understand the consequences of their actions on the stock and their livelihoods and all that. But having said that, I don't want to discount the fact that, as you rightly said, they are not part of the problem. They are part of the problem. There are many instances where they outrightly reject some of these policies that are supposed to help the industry in the medium and long term. For example, the issue about premix subsidies now. I'm sure a government that decides to withdraw this will encounter problems. But then we have to, because if we are spending about $40 million every year just to subsidize an input that is causing further depletion of the stock, of which they only get about 20% or less, and the rest are diverted, I think it's a good idea. But then it will be very difficult to convince them on issues like this. So I think they are also partly to blame. But then the greater portion of the blame, of course, go to the regulators. And the regulators, behind the regulators are politicians who come and go.
Okay.
And their vested interests, their personal interests actually override everything.
So how do we deal with that part?
Well, it's a big problem. We all know that the process that delivers political leadership in this country is inherently corrupt. Politicians have to come to power by campaigning. They need money. And once they campaign, they come to power, they have to find a way of getting those money. And they look at natural resources as a place where they can go and recoup money very quickly, gold, fish, etc. So to get them to turn around, I think we have to just build institutions. We have to make sure that we empower fishermen, we empower scientists like us who do research and come up with values, and empower the whole society to understand the essence of keeping our oceans healthy and keeping the oceans productive. If you have a story on fisheries now, maybe 1 or 2 people will just click and comment on the web, and you ask yourself why. We have a sector that generates so much money, contributes about 4.5% to the size of our economy, yet people don't seem to be interested. And that is also part of the problem. Society doesn't seem to come to grips with the fact that if we lose our fisheries today, the social economic implications are dire. In fact, the whole country will go into chaos.
Okay. That's serious there. Let me bring in Dr. Kwanzaa here. Doc, before I go to Nana, let me come to you, Doc. How has the prosecution of fisheries laws or enforcement of the laws in the sector also impacted on what we see now on our ocean?
So prosecution in the sector, I must say, is quite slow. And that is also what has contributed to what we are seeing in our sector now. We have vessels that are fined for flouting the laws, and then it takes so much time to recoup the fines from them. Most of the cases are even not settled at all. Usually in the courts, they are sent to be settled out of court. And in the out-of-court settlements, you never get them to pay the exact fines that they are supposed to pay. One of our current research actually states that we could be generating an additional 14.4 to 23.7 million annually if we are collecting the right fines and we are collecting the right licenses. But this is not being done, and so we end up losing a lot in the sector. Prosecution could be better, or generally enforcement could be better. Once the state is able to really prosecute those who are flouting the laws, it also serves as a deterrent for others. The ultimate fine in our law is $1 million. We've only had one vessel that has been fined $1 million, but to date, there is no evidence of payment of the fine.
Okay. So then that then falls on the regulators there.
Yes.
That because they are not doing their work, it makes people take advantage of the sector.
Yes. And I can give you some examples. For example, those who catch juveniles. If you take the maximum and the minimum fine that you could have been given if you went to a court, and you find the simple average, maximum, minimum divided by 2. If you look at what they actually paid when they go through this alternative dispute resolution, they pay only about 9% of that. And if you take those who are transshipping at sea, they pay about 3% of that simple average. So it makes it so lucrative to engage in illegality. And for every crime is like any business venture. If the cost of, the cost that you pay or the fine that you pay is so low relative to the gains that you make from committing the crime, then there is nothing that prevents you from engaging in that criminality.
Okay.
So that's exactly one of the reasons.
Okay. Nana Jojo, so going forward, what do you expect to change about the fisheries sector such that we can control the IUUs and ensure that our fisheries sector is booming the way it has to?
Thank you, sir. So now I think you understand why I said fishermen can only take 20%. 80% is you had a lot of and undercover things that are happening to industry, and when people start blaming fishers, I have a problem. I personally have a problem with it. Anyway, going forward, I believe that the current sector minister has demonstrated one key thing that has helped industry to begin to revamp, and that is the political will. In actual fact, I think Professor Palu and Dr. Edna
Kwanzaa,
I'm sure would attest to that. And therefore, I believe that she's now charting a course for subsequent ministers who will take the office. And now fishers, like Professor Palu is saying, fishers must also be trained or have their capacities built such that we can also stand up to some of these things. You understand? If you are a minister, fine, so be it, but you cannot bend the laws. And looking at our numerical strength, we can do it. What we need is the support of civil society. Looking at the nature of the industry and how cartels play within the sector as a natural resource, just like Professor Palu rightly said. We will need civil society to back us up, and we can get things done. Now, under this minister, we are getting so many things done, like, from time to time, Professor Palu mentioned that there are, now there are measures put in the way to, curb some of these things. Dr. Edna has also said it. So I believe that under the co-management policy which government has actually passed, together we can do it. So for me, I appreciate we are law-abiding. We are prepared to see eye to eye. When we don't understand the issues, yes, that is where we have issues. By now, even there should be policies that should stop the felling of trees that have been planted for 200-300 years. We fell them for canoes, and when will we see these trees again? You understand? So we should be going into fiberglass. Private companies have suggested it, but policymakers, where are you? You understand? So many things. We can even be looking at solar to propel our outboard motors. You understand? And then leave this premix issue behind. There are so many things. That is why I'm saying that even the management of our toxic waste from our factories, EPA have an issue there.
Okay.
You understand? Transfer. It is a multi-sectoral industry that fishing cannot come up with all the answers.
I'm grateful to you, but I'll just give 1 minute each to Dr. Edna and then Prof. I want you to touch on plastic pollution and its impact on the ocean and what we need to do. A minute.
Well, as you may know, about 95% of the plastic waste that we generate here finds itself into the ocean. And this has huge implications for marine mammals. A lot of these mammals eat this, they mistake them for food. Sometimes it traps them and it kills a lot of these mammals. And some of them, when they eat them, like shrimps, you have residues of microplastics in them, and that has implications for our health. So in addition to the fact that it affects the ecological systems of the ocean, it also ends up on our plates, and we eat them, and they have health implications.
We are killing ourselves.
We are killing ourselves by dumping these things into the ocean. So it is very important that we take these things seriously, and as much as possible prevent these things, these plastics from ending up in the ocean. Of course, it also comes from elsewhere, because about 80% of the plastics in the ocean are sent there. They are not generated from the ocean.
From the ocean.
So ocean activities. So globally, but we can do our part by ensuring that where the waste, where we dump our waste, are protected, so that when it rains, these things don't find themselves in the ocean. Yes.
Dr. Edna Kwansa, just a minute for me, how we can deal with plastic pollution of the ocean.
Great. So there is another form of plastic pollution which is not very known in the open, but then very important in the sector. That is with the monofilament nets that the fishermen use. And so we at EJF, we have one project that looks at ensuring that the waste monofilament nets, which are primarily made of plastic, does not end up in the sea. That is a net-free seas. So we try to collect these nets from fishermen, and then we have a payback system where we buy these nets, so the fishermen are also able to earn something economically. And we come and process these nets, and we ship them out to be transformed into other durable materials that can be used again, more durable than just the plastic. So this is one way we are trying to prevent plastics from going into the ocean. And we urge our fisher folks, one, they are not supposed to use the monofilament nets in the marine space. But for those who already have them existing, then we try to make sure they don't end up in the sea and they cause chaos or be ghost fishing in the marine environment.
Okay, all right. Dr. Edna Kwansa, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Prof. Apollo, grateful for coming. And to Nana Jojo Solomon, grateful that you could also join. Grateful that you could also join us here by watching the show. This is the AM show. We have more to come your way. There is an interaction with the Hit FM guys. You know what's going to happen this week. Rep Jesse is coming up here. So stay with us. We have some interaction to have with them here. One of the sponsors, Aquadot Mineral Water, will be joining us for breakfast today. Soon will be coming up. So stay with us on the AM show. All right, so welcome back to the AM show here on the Joy News channel. Well, so I spoke to you about one of the sponsors of this year's Hits FM, Repio Jesse, coming on board to have breakfast with us. They are here, and then they've joined us here for us to have breakfast together. I have with me in the studio Belinda Bruce, who is quality officer of the Aquadot Mineral Water. Hi, Belinda. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. And then there's another Belinda, in this case, Belinda Ochre, marketing officer. Belinda, good morning.
Good morning.
Trust all is well.
Yes.
So let's talk about, Aquadot. First of all, why did you decide to be on board this time around?
Okay, so we know that, good morning to your cherished viewers. We know that the medical experts have always concluded that we take about 8 glasses of water every day. And during the sports activities, we tend to engage in a lot of vigorous activities. Through these vigorous activities, we tend to lose a lot of the water that we have taken in through perspiration, through excretion. And so we as Aquadot Natural Mineral Water, because we are producing very quality water for our people, the people of Ghana, our water contains the best hydration that you would ever get. We want to reach out through the sponsorship platform to reach a lot of people who will be there on that day. So there are a lot of activities going on the 10th of June at the Aviation Social Center. And so we want to be there to provide that hydration that we all need as we go through the activities and we lose the fluids that our bodies are carrying. Yes.
Okay. That's Aquadot, eh?
Yes.
Why Aquadot? Why? Okay, so why should I be interested in taking Aquadot? Aside you coming to sponsor after the day, why must I be really interested in taking Aquadot?
Okay, so as Aquadot, quality is one of our hallmarks. We place premium on quality products. So this water you're seeing here isn't just any water. It has gone through vigorous processes.
Okay.
So you are sure that you're not just taking just water, but it has gone through all the filtration processes and even gone further with the UV treatment and ozonation process.
And if I'm saying ozonation, the ozonation is going to help our water stay beyond a year. So you can keep our water for a very long time, go back to it and realize the taste is still the same. That is what Aquadot we are about. And someone might say that water has gone through vigorous processes, so the nutrients that we need in drinking water has been lost. No. At Aquadot, we ensure we preserve all the necessary nutrients you need for your drinking water.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's why I should be interested in it.
Of course.
But as you say, when you're doing it, I'm not there. So someone will go like, okay, how can I trust that indeed what you're saying is what happens?
Okay, just for you to trust, that is why we take samples of our water to Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, their Water Research Center, for monthly analysis on our water. So that's that place, it's a trusted research center. So if you are taking our water to water research, you should know we are not just giving you any water. And per the results we get from them, our water meets the GS and the FDA criteria.
Okay.
Yes.
Sweet. So from today, you'd have to consider taking Aquadot natural mineral water. You say Obenum Anum Bium.
Obenum Anum Bium.
Oh, okay.
You should try it. When you
I've taken one before, but I didn't pay particular attention to it. But it was really good. So this is Aquadot. When you go out on to the market to buy water, look for Aquadot natural mineral water, because as they have explained, quality is something they don't joke with. And in fact, the day I took it, I didn't. Look, it's something you need to go and taste it as well. Aquadot is just an awesome mineral water, and that's what they've also explained about why they think this is different. The sort of processes that they push it through. So on the D-Day, what will Aquadot be doing?
So we'll be there with stocks of our water. Our water come in very handy packages, like you can see. There's a 500 ml bottle. We also have a 750 ml bottle. We also, one unique thing is that this same bottled water you're seeing, we've also packaged it in rubber, in the sachet. So when you drink the sachet water, you're actually drinking a bottled water in a different package.
Okay.
Because the same quality processes that the bottle goes through, it's the same process the sachet water also goes through. So we are all coming. I believe that it's very important that once in a while we take time to go out there and engage ourselves in the recreational activities. So we'll be there to be parts of the recreational activities, and we'll also be standing by for everybody who would need water at that moment. Because we don't, in as much as we are engaging in the sporting activities, we also don't want to be dehydrated. Because when you are dehydrated, you also impair your ability to engage in the sporting activities. And so we want to be there to be part of people's life, to give them not just any water, but quality natural mineral water, which will give them the best nutrient that is needed for their health in the right quantities, which will give them the best refreshment they need, the best hydration they need, coming in a very, very pleasant taste. So that's what we'll be doing there on that fateful day.
What do you do differently from your competitors? Because we know we have a lot of competitors. Yeah?
Oh, yeah. So like my colleague said, beyond the filtration process, we are also doing what is called the ultra filtration. And so this one actually, just in case a bacteria is able to penetrate through the filtration process, the ultra processes we are doing also goes further to kill any bacteria. So there is no way you can take Aquadot's natural mineral water and be one of those 485,000 people dying out of drinking unsafe water every year. So that is one unique thing. And moreover, we do what is called ozonation. Ozonation goes to the extent of preserving this water. So you can have this water, you can buy as much as you want and keep it on your shelf for a year. And you wouldn't have one single person saying that, your water, as we kept it for long, there's a certain smell in it. No. The ozonation we are doing is taking care of that. And also, we know that this water is from a natural source. It's from borehole. And you know, the borehole water is coming from the depths, the heart of the earth. And so as it passes through the rocks in the soil, it gathers some nutrients, some minerals, and it comes in concentrated volumes. So the ozonation that we are doing is making sure that we give you the nutrients, but then it doesn't come in concentrated volume to also result in other kidney problems.
Okay.
So we are making sure that there is quality on every side, from the processes to the people, the well-trained staff that are ensuring that the process goes on, as well as quality purification process with modern technology. So when you drink Aqueduct natural mineral water, you just have to know that you are assured of quality, pleasant taste, refreshment, and hydration that you need.
Okay. Belinda, one.
Okay.
What team do you support?
What team do I support? Okay, so on Saturday, my team is not on board.
What team? Okay, so what team do you
I'm a
support?
United fan, actually.
Ah, Charlie.
Ooh.
You know what time it is.
Of course.
Yeah.
But on Saturday, I'll go for City.
You go for City, eh?
For City, but if Inter Milan surprises us all, if they win, I'll be happy.
But you know, if City wins, they are beating a record of a treble.
Yes, yes.
Do you want a treble to be broken? That record should only be held by United, don't you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So your prayer should be to support
Inter
Milan, eh?
Yes.
Anyway, Belinda Ochre, what team do you support?
I'm supporting City.
What team do you naturally
All the way.
support?
It's City.
Oh, you're a City fan?
Oh, yes.
Since when?
Since I knew City, I've been part of them.
Really?
The first day I watched City, I just fell in love with them.
Whoa.
Oh, yes.
Ah.
Oh, yes. I didn't like sports. I didn't like soccer, let me say. But the day I watched City, I'm like, which team is this? And I saw the City, I said, I'm with them. Yes. So
Anyway,
City.
so
Pep
you're-
Guardiola is raising the cup this Saturday. Oh, yes.
So you support City.
Oh, yes, I do.
What will happen to you if City loses the game?
I'll still stay with them. Oh, yes.
You won't join United?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay.
All
Anyway.
right.
All right. So just about wrapping up, what will be your last comment to our
Okay,
viewers?
so I want to assure the people of Ghana that we are here for them. We know that we need to drink water, but not just any water. And so we are providing them with the quality natural mineral water that they need. When they drink Aqueduct, they should be assured of a very good purification process. They should be assured of water that has gone through the standards and the requirements of Food and Drugs authorities, as well as the Ghana Standards Authority. They should be assured of a pleasant taste of refreshment and as well as invigorating taste that they need for a better life.
Okay. Belinda.
Okay, so we all know the foundation to healthy life is staying hydrated. And Aqueduct has got all the essential nutrients you need to stay healthy. So whoever that is ready to embark on the journey of staying healthy, I encourage you to go for Aqueduct natural mineral water. Aqueduct natural mineral water. Obenum anumbium.
Okay. So you leave us with your contact so that if anybody watching us or anywhere, any part of the country wants to get in contact with you, he or she could.
Okay, so for bulk purchase, you can call us on 0209 119917, 0209 119917.
Okay.
You can also locate us at Hacho Rabbits and Hacho Ecomog.
Okay.
Yes.
Hacho Rabbit and Hacho
Ecomog.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on board to sponsor the Hit FM Rapid Jesse. I hope to see you there. So what Jesse will you be wearing? United or City Jesse?
I'm coming in my Aqueduct.
Aqueduct. Oh, okay.
We want people to easily identify us. So
Okay.
we will be repping, but
Your
we'll be
Aqueduct
wearing
jersey.
our jerseys in our minds.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you very much. So that's the two Belindas. Belinda Bruce, she is the quality officer of Aqueduct Mineral Water, and Belinda Ochre is marketing officer at the same company. Well, this is the AM show. We'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Mr. Namia Tesca. Mr. Woman, GSTS it's for sided. And sided is for GSTS. You got it? Without one sided. GSTS it's one sided. What's international? One side of international. You have the likes of Presec, Chimota, and the rest at senior schools at the national level. What should we be expecting from you? Second body, why you go back? Presec, why you go back? Messi, this year, Yalbani heat. This year, Yalbani
I feel very excited, and as my friend would say, it has been a very perfect thing, and I feel right now I feel sensational. I mean, sensational. He says. What do you make of the contest that St. John's gave you? It wasn't easy, right? Yes, it was tough though, but the best is the best. Yes.
What would you say to St. John's right now?
God. They should go and prepare for next year. Yes.
But I see people are gifting you money. How much have you gotten so far?
20.
Okay. Final question. So, what should we expect from GSTS at the national level?
We were not coming to win this. Our aim is to win the national championship, and we will do so.
Okay, so welcome back. We're going to do National Science and Maths quiz now. And you know how schools are falling off and schools are also making it. Unfortunately, my school, Bedu Bonso, was beating yesterday. We were second, but because we were second, we couldn't qualify. But we've done okay. Next year, we promise to do better, as well as Sankoro SHS as well. But let's go to Sinyai and join Emmanuel Bright Kweku and understand what's happening there. Bright, good morning.
Good morning, Kojobri. I'm sorry for your loss anyway, for Bedu Bones to not qualify. I'm sorry for that.
For, commiserating with me.
Let me give you some updates from here. Okay, so Samuel, let me give you some updates from here at the Sunyani Technical University. Yesterday, we saw some 4 schools contesting in the Bono Regional Qualifiers. Today, we'll be having the last set of schools to secure the last slot for the Bono Regional Qualifiers. And then yesterday in the contest, we had Nafana Presby Secondary School. They qualified in a tiebreaker against Brekum. Brekum last year they qualified, but unfortunately this time they have been kicked off by Nafana SHS. And then also we had Methodist SHS qualifying in one incredible, I must say, feat. It's actually their first time qualifying to the national stage. We also had Sunyani SHS and the Notre Dame Girls School also qualifying to the national stage of the National Science and Math Quiz. I have with me Anthony, as usual. I've been doing this with him. Anthony, yesterday we saw some thrilling contest, especially the first contest featuring Nafana SHS and then Brekum. Unfortunately, Brekum is out. Tell me about that contest. How did you feel for them?
I mean, Nafana Presby hasn't been able to qualify to the nationals, I think, for the last 4 years. So it was important to them to actually return to the national stage. So I think it took the final riddle for them to actually tie the contest because they answered on the second clue. So it was a 4-point gap up until the final riddle, and they tied the contest and then answered the second tiebreaker question to actually progress through. So some may say it was Brekum's contest to lose, but it was Nafana Presby's contest to win because they wanted it more.
Okay, I know when I interacted with them, they told me, Brekum especially, they told me their competition was actually Sacred Hearts because they had met them in a previous contest and then they beat them. But out of nowhere, Nafana is beating the two of them.
I think in that same interview, they said that on stage there are 4 schools. You can't write any school off. And just because maybe you beat them last year, so you think they are coming for a revenge, doesn't mean that they are the ones you should be wary of. So this is a sign to all the schools that don't plan your contest around one school. You should account for any surprise from any school at all.
Okay. And then lastly, before you go, we also saw Methodist school also qualifying for the first time. The school hasn't qualified. Tell us about it, how it feels.
So Methodist SHTS Brekum, this is their first time going to the national championship. I think the teacher in his interview was very ecstatic. He was very excited that, because of the short notice that the schools had to prepare for the quiz, they got, I think, 16 points. That contest was very cagey. The school that's placed after them got 15 points, and then the other school had 12 points. So it could have gone anyone's way up until the end. So for Methodist SHTS to actually be the slow school in that contest and come out on top means that they'll be motivated to improve their performance for the regional and the zonal championship and the preliminary stage that will come later in the year. So even though they realize that their scores were low, the important thing is qualifying for them. So
all right, so thank you very much, Anthony, for that update. Also, we have some schools that will be contesting in the first contest for today. For the Bono regional qualifiers, we have Doma SHS, we have Kwasi SHS, and then Goka SHS also featuring in that particular contest. We also have Brekum Presby featuring for the last slot. And then the other contest would be for the Ahafo regions. But I have a teacher from Brekum Senior High School to speak with Brekum Presby. Yes. Sir, you have been telling me for the past 5 years you've not qualified or you've not been to the stage. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, we have been coming. We have been coming since 2016. Yes, and 2016 we qualified for the regionals. 2017 we qualified for regionals. 2018 we did so up to I think 2020, and then we had a break. Due to one or two reasons. So we decided to set back a little.
Okay. So what does it mean for you coming to these regional qualifiers and then even progressing to the national stage? What does it mean?
We hope to improve upon our last performance since we came in, and we hope to take it from there and to prepare well and come for this particular contest.
Okay, so that's the teacher from Brekum Presby who just told us that they are preparing well for this. They've prepared well for the regional qualifiers. And then later in the day, we're having some contests for the Ahafo region. They will feature 3 contests. There will be 3 contests actually. We have Samuel Otu Presby, and then Boma SHS, and then Boache SHS, and then the second contest will feature Ola Girls Kenyasi, and then Sewakesi Girls High School, and then Hwidiem SHS, and then Kukuom Agric School. And then the last contest for the day for the Ahafo region will feature Achirensua SHS, and then Jemfi SHS, and then Ahafoman SHS, and then Bechem Presby SHS. So that is what is going to happen here today in the Sunyani Technical University. We are seeing some 3 schools, or let's say 3 slots that will be occupied by any of the 15 schools that will be contesting for the Ahafo region, and then we'll have the last slot for the Bono region. That is going to be this morning. So any of the schools that I earlier mentioned are hoping that they will secure the last slot for the Bono region, and then later in the day, somewhere in the afternoon, we see the other 3 schools qualifying for the Ahafo regional contest. So, Brace, this is what is happening here in the Sunyani Technical University.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's see how it goes. Grateful to you, Emmanuel Bright Kweku. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority announces for the information of the general public, especially importers, that with the passage of VAT Amendment Act 2022, Act 1082, all importers who qualify to register for VAT and have failed to do so will, from Tuesday, June 6th, or June 6, 2023, be charged an additional 12.5% on the customs value of taxable goods they import. The upfront payment is charged at importation on taxable goods imported in commercial quantities with a value of 200,000 Ghana cedis and above. Kindly note that the upfront payment is not a new tax. It is a compliance tool to encourage persons required to register for VAT to register and file tax returns in order to bring parity in the administration of VAT. An importer who makes the upfront payment may be allowed to recover the amount when they register and file their VAT returns as stated in Act 1082. We therefore entreat all importers who qualify to register for VAT to make arrangements to register at the nearest taxpayer service center to avoid the upfront payment. Kindly contact GRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110, 0800 900 110, or WhatsApp numbers 0552 99 0000, 0552 99 0000, or 0200 631664. 0200631664, or send an email to info@gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. Now, glorious birthday to Godwin Eli Agbana of GCB. I pray that good and perfect lines falls for you in pleasant places. Enter into your new season of celebrations. From Erica of Multimedia Sales. And that's how we wrap the show for you today. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning. It's been an honor. My name is Samuel Kojo Braze. Up next is News Desk with Aisha Ibrahim. Good morning.